I am begging you to let us start the episode. I am begging.
Please, I just want to do this so I can go to bed.
Press start.
Okay, now we're starting episode 157.
Yes, we are starting.
My goodness. And Jeff left. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, I'm Tim, and I'm here with Dan, who can't take it anymore either. Dan,
I can't even, as the kids say. I can't
even.
And
And
Where is my Starbucks? I can't even right now.
And that was Derek. He is just upset about Starbucks. He's carrying out for us tonight, and
Yes.
he wants to talk to your manager. And then we've got Jeffrey. Welcome.
Hey.
All right, guys, we've got some games. Not as many new games, like maybe one major new game this week, but lots of stuff that we're continuing to play over the last few weeks. So we'll get into some of that. We've got a few headlines we'll cover too. And then I am curious about what everyone thought about it. If you watched it, the first episode of Mandalorian. I know we've got, of course, our latest Last of Us episode. We didn't mean to, but we've just kind of been talking about it every week, which has been fun. I love this show.
Yeah.
And then also we're going to celebrate the PlayStation 2, so we'll get onto that in a little bit as well. But let's just jump right into stuff we're playing now, specifically new stuff. The two that I'll call out that I think are significantly new games, and there's one major DLC that dropped. So Wo Long Fallen Dynasty, probably the most significant game that dropped this week, just in terms of the exposure it's gotten. It's on Game Pass. It had a big demo. Everyone's talking about it. And then Scars Above, much smaller game, kind of that Swimming in Sevens style AA game that dropped. And then Destiny 2's Lightfall expansion finally released. So I've only played Wo Long out of these, and I played it for, I don't know, maybe 2 hours. So I've got few thoughts on it, but I'll let one of the three of you jump in. Which one do you want to kick it off with? Which one are you most excited about out of those three?
Out of those three, Wo Long was the one I was most excited about. But I'd actually rather hear your impressions, just because I'll be honest, I refuse to play this until I get to a point where I either beat Octopath or I get tired of Octopath. Because I feel like if I start playing Wo Long, I'll get sucked in, and then I'll be like, well, I don't want to play Octopath anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't have much to add. I just played like the intro area where you get to the first boss, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I just played a little bit past that.
To Octopath then, and Derek actually liking it that much.
Yeah, I know. We do have a lot. Actually, we'll talk about Octopath Traveler 2 in this segment as well, just because it's been the kind of on the highlight of everyone's minds recently. So my thoughts on Wo Long are that it is very much a Neo game. It makes sense. The people who made Neo made this game. It reminds me a lot of Neo, with little elements here and there that remind me, of course, because of the setting of like Sekiro and a little bit of FromSoft games. But that's how Neo already was. Neo already had little touches of Dark Souls, but not completely. It had little touches of other games. It actually sometimes reminded me of The Witcher, depending on what you were doing and how you built your character. So like there's little pieces of other games while being its own thing. So I think it's a really interesting game. It's really strange too, because on the PC at least it keeps. I did the demo up to the first boss or close to it, and then I fired it up on Game Pass and got it to that same spot, just a little bit past that same spot. On Game Pass, but both times on PC it thinks I'm using a PlayStation controller, so I had to go in and change the controller type because it kept telling me to press square and X for different things. And I was
why are
like,
you telling me to do that?
Yeah. So anyway, that was just a weird little. Those are the kind of things that I'm sure they'll patch in, because it's not like game breaking. Obviously, it's just a little bit annoying. But anyway, it runs pretty well on my very much mid-range rig that I've got, mid to low range that I've got. I think it runs pretty well on my 1440p monitor. I think it looks decent, although it doesn't look amazing. We've seen so many pretty games in the last year. It's not blowing me away in terms of visuals, but it's got a nice style to it, right? I like the art style. I like the setting. I think they do the setting pretty well. And the smoothness and kind of like all the spinning attack looks of all your attacks and the deflects, which is kind of one of the main features. Instead of parry, it's all about deflecting. That does look really cool. It's very flashy, and there's sparks that fly everywhere as you time those deflects properly. So I think it looks pretty good. It's very, very fast. So Elden Ring was like a purposeful action RPG. Every button you hit had to be purposeful. Some builds were really quick, but a lot of them were just slower compared to super fast-paced action games. And until you play a really fast game, it's hard to really recognize how a game like Dark Souls or Elden Rings is much slower feeling. And this one's quick, man. It's very fast. And that's a good thing, I think. I don't mind it. I think I kind of prefer the more meticulous, take your time and think it out. This can feel a little bit button mashy. I do think, and I've seen some reviews that confirm this, the major encounters, I did one mini boss and one major boss a couple different times. And once you learn the timing on the deflect, I don't know if every boss is going to be this way, but it becomes a little easy, which is a little strange.
That was the gist, of most of the reviews, is that the game was too easy. Now, again, and this is what I was explaining to Jesse White, who's not good at these games at all. I said, when a reviewer says it's easy, that means they're good at Souls games, and they're saying they figured this out and it's easy. That does not mean the average gamer is just going to start playing and be like, well, I've always sucked at these games. This one's going to be the one I'm good at. No,
so when I first did the demo, I actually died on some easy enemies that they're trying to do tutorials with him. Man, they hit hard. But once I kind of got the groove of the speed of combat and the
that's
speed
really
of how to
what
hit
it is, how fast it is.
And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I barely got hit. Playing it through on the Game Pass one. Now, I've heard that one of the things that keeps this game from getting scored super highly, from some folks at least, is the very inconsistent difficulty. I've heard that it can spike up and be crazy frustrating because whatever, you can't deflect every attack.
I've only, granted, I'm not seeing a lot of people talk about this, at least in my feeds, but I saw Alana tweet about it, everybody's favorite, Alana Pierce. And she said that once you get past the first boss and figure out the deflect, it's like way easy after that, apparently. Yeah. So apparently the hardest boss, there's a huge difficulty spike in the very first main boss. And then after that, it's like, oh, well, I'm good. Apparently, that's how far she is.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. But the system is cool. It's instead of parry, in parry, usually you're going to be like hold for block, tap for parry. That's most games have a parry system, something like that. This does have a block button. Different. It's your left shoulder button, and then your dodge also acts as your deflect. So if you double tap it, you're gonna dodge out of the way. If you just hit it once in a direction, that's when you're gonna do a deflect if you time it right. And you can deflect smaller attacks if you want to, but the better thing to do is wait until they glow red. They're gonna do like a critical attack at you, and that is it's almost like once you get the timing is not easy. Like you'll get hit a bunch as you're trying to figure out the timing. Don't get me wrong. But once you get it, it feels a little more like an Arkham game because you're just looking for that signal to hit your counter button, essentially.
It's like Hogwarts Legacy timing, kind of, where it flashes red above your head. It's harder this is where I can get a perfect one.
It is harder than both of those. Like the window is much smaller, and you can get demolished if you mistime it. And I found myself dodging by accident a number of times. But again, once you kind of really get the game and it clicks for you, I could see this being something that, especially Souls fans, but even people who aren't big Souls fans, I could see them getting through it without too much trouble, outside of maybe it sounds like a couple bosses and a couple encounters are really tough, but mostly pretty easy from what I've heard. And I mean easy, like Derek said, on that scale of Neo and
on the Soulsborne scale.
Yeah, I felt like Neo 2, and Neo was like this too. So the Neo games, what makes them, I think, there's other differences, but majorly different from the Souls game is the loot system. So obviously they're faster, and there's some other systems built into the game that are different. But the big thing was the loot system. There's a lot of different gear. You can level up in Bloodborne and the Souls games, but it's not your gear. You can change the way you look, and it might have some stat bonuses, but you're not leveling it up. This is like Diablo and
Monster Hunter's in that category too. You got to get good gear in Monster Hunter. Yeah.
This is they overwhelm you with too much gear, and a lot of it's trash. But
Neo did. I've heard this isn't as bad as Neo with the gear.
I saw that it was still pretty bad. Maybe a little bit better, but Neo's really bad. But the issue I had with the Neo games, I beat the first one. The second one, I got halfway through it, and I really just did not enjoy Neo 2. Even though everybody who likes Neo games, except for me, of course, says Neo 2 is better than Neo. But my issue with those games is they have huge spikes in difficulty. Like, you really have to grind like an old school JRPG to get better gear, to get better at the game, to level up your character, so you even have a shot against some of the bosses. Because some of them
Sounds
are
like
so
sounds like one of the
relentless.
bosses in Octopath 2, which is I could expect that to anger you even more because it's like no. I'm playing Octopath because I want to avoid this crap with Wolong and Neo.
Yeah,
You know, like
Uh-huh.
I don't want to
No,
have to grind right outside the boss's area.
Oh,
Yeah.
but that's RPGs.
That's
Yeah.
RPGs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
In fact, when I saw that Octopath didn't have like a difficult setting, there was no easy
Right.
option
There
for
isn't.
me, hard,
Yes.
medium.
Yeah.
It's just a
Right.
default.
Just
I was like,
level
I'm gonna
scaling.
play this
Yeah.
game, but I'm not gonna be shocked if I hit a wall and I'm like, I can't beat this boss. It's happened to me in the past where I'm like, I don't know. This boss demands that I do something that I don't know exists, so I
Mhm.
quit.
It's that old
Um,
school approach where it's like, hey, this particular mountain has enemies that are always this hard, and so until you're strong enough, you're just going to get smacked around until you.
Yeah,
come
and
back
I'll talk
stronger.
about that. Jeff and I will
Yeah.
talk about that enemy because that's
And
basically
so
what
these
happened.
these games
Yeah.
too, Neo and maybe Wolong, I'm not sure, but they can fall into that same category of like, you better get ready before you go to that area. And
Right.
Yes.
that makes sense.
So yes, like the Neo games, you do have to get good, but a lot of it is built off of like, are you patient? Like they're not the type of games where you can just go from boss to boss to boss to boss. Like you have to grind a little bit. You have to
Sure.
get better gear. You have to get better skills. The reason I didn't like Neo 2 is it had a bunch of systems in it that I quite frankly I didn't fully understand or grasp and did not care to fully understand and grasp. And I was hoping Wolong would be a little bit more simplistic. So when I watched the reviews, I was like, okay, I'm still excited for this game. I do believe I'll like it once I invest time in it. But it sounded too much like Neo, and I was kind of hoping that they were going to.
Mhm.
Why not just make Neo
Yeah.
3?
Right.
If all you're gonna do is make Neo again, I wanted
With
Just
a
in a
different
different
title.
setting.
Yeah.
I just wanted
You know,
them to
the
make
systems they've introduced are pretty cool, though. I did want to talk about those. Like, yes, similar to Neo in a lot of ways, but not in every way. It does have some elements of making builds later in the game as well, like as you tailor out your character. So if you like that, which I really do, and that is the reason why I'm still on the fence, I might play this more than I thought I would because I love the idea of making your own class build. I think that's really cool. So the systems, you've got the spirit meter underneath your health bar, which starts neutral, right in the middle, and it either goes to the right where you've built up spirit, and you can do that by deflecting attacks, dodging, landing your basic hits, and then you can use that up with your magic or with a special strong attack that's kind of charged up, so you can do more damage using that spirit meter. And if you go below spirit and get hit, now you're stunned. So there's like this kind of push and pull, little tug of war meter where you're like trying to weigh risk versus reward on that. So it's kind of like stamina, but not really. It's an interesting take on stamina because you gain spirit from hitting attacks, but you use it up to do things like cast magic, for example. So I like that spirit system. I think it works pretty well. And then they have this more morale system, not morality, like good or bad. It's
Not
like
morals,
a morale
yeah.
system. Yeah.
Wow.
So like it's
Like your spirits. Like
when you die, you
how do I
lose
feel?
morale. Like,
Yeah.
because you get resurrected, you got defeated, and this guy, you go back to this guy, has just a touch of the shadow of war games because that character is now stronger because their morale is higher because they beat you, and you can't get your stuff back. Whatever you've lost a bunch of spirit and stuff, or not spirit. You've lost a bunch of stuff, and you have to beat them to get it back. You can't just go to a spot and hit a button and gather it and run away. Like you have to defeat that character, and if you get one shot at it. So if it's a boss, you're kind of screwed unless you are ready to fight that boss, I guess. So there's this morale system, and basically the more you build that up by landing attacks, doing special moves, defeating enemies, the stronger you're going to be. And also you have to have your morale up to certain levels for certain moves, and so as your magic spells, as you unlock more of those, some of those require really high morale to be able to cast those. So that system comes into play as well. It's interesting. And then when you level up, you've got 5 categories, and they're all kind of based on these essences, or like you've got earth, fire, metal, water, and I forget what the other one is. I'm blanking on it. But each of those of course, it's what they sound like. Like fire is going to be more attack, and you build up more spirit when you attack, so you can unleash stronger attacks. And earth is much more defense and health points. And metal, I think, had to do with more stamina, and you build up spirit faster, so you can do more moves, even though they don't hit any stronger. So like the idea is you build your character how you want out of these 5 categories that are each attached to all these different stats. So I like the systems. I think at first, because they're named different things, I kind of was like, oh, this is going to be a lot. I don't know. But as I realized, oh, these are just different names for things I've seen before, it wasn't too bad. I don't find it to be that overwhelming. So like the spirit meter is kind of like a stamina bar in a way. Stamina / like charge bar, I guess, in a way. So, so anyway, I think the systems are pretty cool. I think it plays well. It looks fine. There are times when some of the textures remind me of what they have to do on the Switch to get a game to run well. It can be like real flat, like kind of like Wild Hearts did this too. Like it can be real flat and kind of pasty and just bland some sections, but then some of the monster and enemy designs are really cool. Like the first boss's design is really cool, especially in his second phase. I thought that looked really cool. So, so anyway, I think the overall style and design is cool, but it's not the most visually impressive game you'll play this year. That's for sure. And by the way, the story and this has been confirmed. Like so far, the intro of the story feels very much like I could have. If you would have told me, hey, what do you think based on the setting the story's about? And I'm like, probably some guy who's got to avenge his village getting massacred, right? Like that's pretty much how it starts. And then there's lots of dialogue. I don't recommend using the English voiceover. I think it's awful. I think the voice acting is bad. Some people might think it's fine. But I just thought so. I turned it off and went over to Japanese with subtitles. Way better because their mouths are actually synced up. They always have it way better. It's much better. It's much more intense. You can just tell it's, they care a lot more. So,
I mean, not to be like the snob with like anime specifically, but I mean, I do prefer subbed. I think it's just the way that they the way, I mean, obviously anime is coming from Japan. It's drawn in Japan. It's Japanese animation, and the voice acting is the way that they kind of portray the voices, and the acting that they put in just matches the tone of what is happening. Whereas sometimes the English is not quite hitting it right. It's just like the way that they're saying things doesn't match.
I mean, that's mostly not the case anymore, though, because they have spared no expense with American voice actors and anime.
It's
at least in the anime that I've watched.
Yeah.
You're right.
For sure. It's much
I'm like,
better,
holy crap, dude.
Yes, but there are some cases where it's like, did someone's uncle come in and do this part?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
so basically,
this part,
it's like Patricio or whatever his name is from Octopath, if he was to do anime. That's what the American voiceovers always remind me of. They kind of take you out of the setting. You're like, what are you doing? How are you talking like that?
Y'all, we're here to school of superheroes. We're going to fight a big monster, right? What? This doesn't fit the tone of the show at all. What is happening?
Yeah, so if you liked Sekiro, if you liked the Neo games, even if you've kind of like dabbled in the Souls games, but they haven't quite grabbed you, they feel too slow maybe, or everything feels too heavy. That was always my thought with Dark Souls games, or Bloodborne, whatever. Like if you are interested, this might be one worth trying. It's on Game Pass anyway. I think it's a pretty solid game, but it's one of those ones you have to pay attention and really kind of devote yourself to, like, all right, I'm going to learn the system and play it till I get pretty good at it. And it's like most of those games. So it's definitely high quality. Like the 8s make sense to me. Like, and based on my couple of hours with it, the scores right around 8 are making the most sense to me based on like when you compare gameplay and visuals to other games. It's not a 10, but I think it's good. So I think an 8 is just about right. I think it's at an 81 on Metacritic, something like that. So
wow.
I think the Neo games are always in the mid to high 80s. So this one seems to be scoring a little bit lower. But
and if you like that mythology, right, in that setting and that kind of like,
I played the heck out of the first demo, not the second one that just came out, but the first demo, like I beat it like 3 or 4 times. So that's why this game moved up. Like, I won't say it's the most anticipated game of this year, but it was really high on my like, I can't wait to play this. And then for some reason I downloaded the demo and I was like, I'm not in the mood for this, and I'm not going to distract myself from what I'm playing right now.
You'll circle back to it, I bet.
But I think exactly by next week, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm like, guys, we got to talk about a certain game that's amazing.
Yep. Oh, and you do get a lot of spells too. So if you like, more ranged attacks, you can bring light. Like right away, you get like a lightning spell that comes down from the sky. You can launch fireballs, but you pick what you want to unlock. So like whichever one of those elements that you focus on as you level up, you'll start unlocking more spells in that tree. So they each have their own tree. So some of them are for defense and whatever. So, yeah, that's Wolong. I think it's a really good game.
Did anybody else play it or try the demo at all?
I had just tried that original demo, but not the newest one.
Okay.
Just because again, I've been kind of moving from the newer things that I can as I've been.
I thought the
going
original
along.
demo was a little overwhelming. There's too many systems they were showing you all at
See,
once.
I actually liked it.
Did you like
actually,
it? Okay.
Yeah, I liked the balance of the
Original
difficulty.
demo was awesome.
Yeah, I was like,
This
oh,
one
this
is-
actually doesn't.
This one
seem too
definitely
hard.
eases you into it. It's like here's two
Oh,
Oh,
things.
it's definitely the beginning of the game. Like
The
it's
beginning of
just
the
like, hey, we're gonna start you off and teach you all the systems right up.
That could have been feedback, right? Maybe if people were like kind of more leaning in what you're saying, Tim.
They
to the
had a
systems.
lot of
Yeah.
feedback from the original demo because the original demo, as much as I loved it, I had some serious issues with like if you try to heal in the especially in the boss fight, if you didn't have help, if you were just trying to solo the boss and you try to heal, your animation was literally this.
Take a screenshot.
that was way
Someone
too
take
slow.
a screenshot.
That was way too, it was way too slow for sure.
No, it's
God.
quick.
God damn it.
It's definitely
God damn
much quicker in this.
Edit that bit.
It's definitely much quicker in this one, like because I've healed during the boss fight and it is much faster.
Yeah, they fixed a lot of stuff that people were complaining about. I also think that's why the I don't remember, and I could be wrong, but I don't remember the deflect system and parry system being like this in the original demo, where it was such a big, huge part of it. I know it was in it, but I'm talking about where I only fought the boss once. Like I just fought him once.
Yeah, me too.
Just so I could talk about it in the show. And then I was like, nope, I'm not gonna. I'm in a bad mood. This is not the game you play when you're in a bad mood. I'm gonna go back to Octopath, which by the way, I ended up yelling at that game too. But like,
Shocker.
I feel that.
But when I was in that boss fight, I wasn't really using the parry in when I was fighting the normal enemies, and I was just trying to get out of the way, and I was just automatically going into where I was flipping over the guy and then stabbing him. I'm like, oh, this is way easier. I didn't even realize I was doing that. I was just trying to dodge.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm like parrying and deflecting and all this stuff. So I do think they messed around with a lot of that stuff based off that feedback from the original demo to maybe simplify it and make it an easier game. And now reviewers are like, it's too easy.
Yeah, some are. I don't think it doesn't feel too easy to me.
No,
only in comparison to other games. But if you just take it as like, hey, this is its own thing, it is a very solid action RPG. The first demo introduced, here's all your magic casting, here's your spirit you can summon, here's every weapon type, here's stuff you can throw and use it. And I was just like, this is a little too much for me. That first demo, I was like, I don't want to have to learn all these systems. This is like, you have a sword, that's what you start with. Then eventually you get like a pole arm, and then they give you like one spell. So like to me, it's what most games do this correctly, right? Where they kind of walk you through the elements of the game. And there's not really stealth. You can't. I mean, there is. You can't like go into crouch mode and hide in the bushes or whatever. It's not that. But like if you can go up behind an enemy and walk slowly, you can get in a critical hit. Kind of a stealth attack, which I do like that, or from above too. Like if you're up on.
I was gonna say I really like jumping from above and then.
Yeah.
So
it's good, but like I said, I'll invest more time in it later. It's
my favorite weapon so far is
right
the dual blades. I got dual swords, and they are awesome.
Those are awesome in Neo. I always use the dual swords.
And you have like these martial arts attacks where you hold the right bumper and then hit one of your 2 attack buttons, and it'll use up a bunch of spirit to do these awesome combos. But with the dual blades, he does like this. He kind of rotates his body sideways and does a sideways helicopter and then slams down. It just looks awesome. Like it's just really, really cool.
Sounds like it's a good game.
It is a good game. So yeah, there you go. Did anybody play Scars Above? I thought I might play it, but I just haven't gotten to it.
Yeah, I really thought I was going to. I even downloaded it, installed it, but my life is being controlled by.
Well, let's come back to that one
games
later.
Right now.
Yeah, when later this year, when we get, if we get time into this game, we'll circle back on Scars Above. It is reviewing how I anticipate 60 to 80. No, I didn't buy it yet.
Yeah, I didn't like the demo. I know you guys
did.
did. I thought the demo
Yeah, I
was
liked it.
terrible. I was like, I'm not gonna buy those.
I did, but I knew I was like, I'm not in the mood to play this right now. I've got other games I'm juggling, and I wanted to play more Wolong. So I was like, how about when I know I'm gonna play it, that's the moment that I'll buy it.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for that. What about Destiny 2 Lightfall?
I did play that. Not a lot of it, but enough to get the gist of, well, it's Destiny. But Destiny does do a pretty good job of, like, every year when they release their main expansion, they usually add some type of new gameplay element. And this one, they basically, I would imagine they took it straight from Halo Infinite, but you have that ability to, now I'm forgetting the word.
The grapple?
The grapple. You can grapple onto enemies and do special moves and all this type of stuff. So I only did the first mission, which is actually a pretty long mission. It took like 45 minutes to complete, and that's kind of where they're introducing you to your new powers and abilities and the new characters in the new world. So gameplay wise, it's cool. I just felt like the look of it and some of the characters you're introduced to, and again, I haven't played enough to see if my opinion changed. It just felt like a B level, like, Marvel movie, like where it was just like, here's this generic superhero, and here's this bright lit city, and that really looked generic to me. Everything just looked very generic, which I've never ever said that about Destiny. I think everything they do is top of the line. They make things look cool. So again, it could have just been, I'm not in the mood for this, but it didn't put me in the mood for it. I was like, I'm not going to invest much time in this right now. But overall, it's more Destiny. It's cool, but if you don't like Destiny, it's not going to sell you on it. If you do like Destiny, again, I only played a little bit, but there's nothing there that goes, this is stupid. It's Destiny. You're going to
It's like Jeff
it.
said last week. It's like this kind of game you fire up and you're like, oh yeah, this game is awesome to play. Like whether or not you really want to get, like, the shooting works great. Like it just plays really well.
Shooting's great, and Destiny games, the reason they hook me is because the shooting to me is top of the line, and then the loot system. So I enjoy my loot games. And that's one of the games where it's like, it is fun to, like, they always start you on these expansions. For me, like, well, actually for everybody, they raise the light level. So they start you at, I think this one starts you at 1600. I can't remember. So anyways, all your characters are 1600 flat. And then it's just really cool to start picking up items and be like, okay, that will level me up 10 points. This will level me up that. And all that stuff like that. I get into all that stuff, and what's the stat bonuses, and so that if you're looking for
the Destiny 2 loot system and gearing up system is a lot of fun. Like I like that. I like their light level system. It's good.
They've definitely, granted the game's been around for like 7 years. Like I'm talking Destiny and Destiny 2. Their systems are very like convoluted. There's a lot to them. They're constantly trying to change them because they want to keep you interested. They can't keep everything the same. So if you haven't played in a while, that stuff, I always come into it and I'm like, I don't know what I'm
You got the Jack Sparrow face when he's like rescued, like, huh? Yeah.
Like I have to start learning what they're doing.
When did the first one come out? Was that 2014? Was the first Destiny?
It was like the first year, like a year after the PS4 launched, I believe.
And then yes, that would be 2014, and then Destiny 2.
2 was 2016 or 2017.
It was pretty quick, but then
I think it's 2017. I think it was 2017. Okay. It was the year the hurricane hit, and I think that was 2017 because I remember playing Destiny 2.
Well, there's no way for us to find out. We can't find out when that happened.
No, it's impossible.
Nope.
So
you can't look it up. Too bad.
Were you gonna say you remember playing Destiny in a hurricane? Like you were outside like, this is the best way to play this game.
Actually, we packed all our stuff and we went to my church, and we were in the church, and I was just playing Destiny 2, waiting for the power to go out, and it did eventually go out, but it was just for like a couple of hours. We thought it was actually this. I forgot what the name of the hurricane was, but it was supposed to completely obliterate everything. So I never evacuate. That was the first and only time I've ever evacuated. And so I went to my church, and I went back to my house after the hurricane passed, and there was literally
Irma.
there was like 3 limbs in my yard, and I was like, really?
I thought there was a hurricane last year that we were all very concerned for you about, but then it just kind of
Yeah,
that's
something.
the one that hit in Miami that actually did obliterate like South Florida.
right.
Like did a lot of damage.
I thought the path was going to go through Tampa because you're
supposed
in Tampa,
to hit Tampa.
So like, and then like the fact that it really kind of didn't do that much in Tampa, kind of left everybody going, "What the hell?" I thought it was supposed to, like. Meteorologists were a little confused.
A dramatic shift, but I just remember a hurricane hitting when Destiny 2 launched, and that game was awesome.
The
game was great.
I played that the most that year for sure.
I still remember from the first game when they had to replace the voice for your little
Peter Dinklage
friend, Peter Dinklage,
because he phoned it in so hard and sounded like he was like napping in the voice.
Hey, you should stand here.
That's a wizard from the moon. Oh no.
That's a wizard.
Oh no, Peter.
Oh no, we all like you.
And then Nolan North came in and just crushed it. He's like, I'll show you how to do this.
Yeah, he's like, I got this.
Hold my beer.
Hold my beer.
I mean, I'm not saying that Peter actually phoned it in. I wouldn't be surprised if he got terrible direction on like what his role was supposed to be.
That's fair.
And someone like Nolan North doesn't need a ton of direction for voice acting.
Right. Honestly, Nolan North sounds like Nolan North as this character, just with like a robotic twist.
Right.
Whereas Peter Dinklage just sounded like Peter Dinklage with a little bit of robotic twist, but their personalities are completely different. You have one guy who's very like mellow tone, and you got another guy who's more excitable.
Yeah, if you've heard Peter Dinklage interviews, he just a little bland.
He's very dry. Very
dry,
very
bland.
Tired and quiet. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's exactly
tired. That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Very tired. Yeah.
Like he's
that's why you
irritable.
don't hire a guy like that to do voice acting. You just don't, because he's not even a professional voice actor. Like
unless
on
it's
the level of Nolan North.
Unless that's what you want, right?
Right. That's.
I want my character to sound super bored. Let's hire Peter Dinklage. Yes, go for it.
Yep.
But outside of that, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I know this game came out last week. We already talked about it, but you guys have been playing it so much. I know, especially Jeff. The reason I want to have you start us off on Octopath Traveler 2 is because this is not a historically Jeff game.
No, it's not. No.
So for those of you who for some reason don't know, this is the sequel to the throwback that Square put out. Octopath Traveler was one of the biggest surprises of 2018. I didn't see it coming. It was just
that was a busy year too. So like the fact that it stood out that year was pretty telling.
Yeah. And it was the
visual. Ignored it in 2018.
The visual style is great. The combat is pretty standard, like old school turn-based JRPG with some really cool twists they put in there to keep you engaged and add some levels of layers of strategy. I think they do a good job. Yeah,
I do. I play
top of the line to me.
These type of turn-based games. I play pretty fast because you can play the turns combat.
Yeah,
you can play them as fast as you want.
Speed it up. Yeah.
So I'm just like that. Yeah, and you can.
It's already fast, even if you don't turn it up.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
fast.
By the way, this has given me hope that you might try the Suikoden games because not only will they have fast forward, but there's auto battle. So if you're just going we can just have everyone auto attack. You don't have to hit any buttons. You just hit auto
I would never do that. That feels like a cheapening of the experience to me.
That's only for when you're wandering through the field. You can't do that in the boss.
Level grinding.
Oh, I see.
Level grinding, yeah.
But I still want to be the one responsible for beating somebody.
That's totally fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I know
I
I'm
want to
doing
hit attack
stuff, but
I
want to one.
I want to whack them.
You know. Anyway, I love it. I'm like almost 20 hours in. I think I'm 17 hours in now. And I'm in the dancers Agnia.
Which is Derek's favorite character.
It's so funny hearing the nicknames that other characters come up with. Like Agni, I'm like, Agni? What? Just call her Agnia. You're not even missing that many syllables.
It's like Kevin on The Office when he shortens all the words.
Yeah.
It's saying.
And they call
Save much time.
People in Partitio's neighborhood called him Party. And I was like, Party? Okay, you're trying way too hard.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm in her second chapter. She's about to go to the theater and whatever. And I think Derek already beat that chapter. I think he's done most of the chapter 2 stuff. So I think you're actually a little more ahead of me, but I do have all 8 people already, and I have 5 secondary jobs. No, 4, because 4 of them are in level 30 areas, and I'm not gonna bother with that obviously right now because I'm in the high teens, 20s with all my characters. level.
So you guys are like further along, like you've progressed further, but I have more hours in the game, which is interesting.
That's
where,
weird.
where are you at hours wise?
So like 2021.
I'm at 20.
But my characters are like level 22. And I'm just getting to Throne as my 6th character, so I haven't even done any chapter 2s whatsoever.
Are you just opening the map up and stuff, or?
So what I'm doing, I am wandering around a bit. So what I'm doing is, and I saw somebody on Twitter mention this, and I mentioned it to you guys. So when you get Particio, he has this move. I can't remember what the hell it's called, but it's basically like you mug whatever the enemy you're fighting is, and you can do that.
You mean during combat? He has
during combat. Yes,
you can collect money. Yes,
you can collect extra money for every single monster on the. So I've just been doing that. Every single battle. I've just been mugging every enemy and just raking in the cash.
Yeah,
just
he
so
sounds like a really good guy.
I
want to end
monsters, whatever.
That is funny that Particio is so well-meaning and sincere, and yet one of his moves is to steal from enemies he's fighting. Right. That's pretty.
Well, and that's one of the things I love about this game.
It's monsters. You're right. It is monsters.
It's like the tone of the game is like this lighthearted JRPG, which, by the way, that's racist. It's just RPG. But like,
it's true.
Oh, no, one of the JRPG creators said it's racist.
Well, I mean, a Japanese man said that there was a whole stigma with that. So, I mean, to be fair,
it's funny. It's fine.
I guess.
So anyways, it's like this lighthearted game.
But y'all made this in Japan, and it's Japanese influenced
so
mechanics.
So it's actually JRPG.
Well, okay, whatever, guy. Whatever, guy. We're not saying it derogatorily, like, at all. So I don't know.
But when you switch it to like night mode and you're running around the city, like I have all 4 of my characters, and I go up, I hit the X button, and it brings up my options, and it's like one's like mug, one is like beat down, one is to steal. And then after she steals everything, she laughs at him. She's like,
it's so funny.
So I'm just running around the town, like mugging, beating down people, and stealing their moves and stealing their items. And I'm going, this like is counter to like the whole vibe.
You guys
of
are the villains
characters.
of the story. Yeah. Like you guys are the bad guys.
You do have that option of being like of damaging your reputation and stuff like that by just doing horrible things around each town. But yeah, the night moves are really fun, and I think you guys mentioned that's a new mechanic for the second game, where you can just switch from day to night.
Yeah, day night hasn't a thing in the first game.
Monsters are stronger at night,
and I love that. Yeah, and they pop up more for sure at night.
Which is what I like to do. I am going through the story, but I like to go in the like areas where it says level 14, level 16, and then I switch it to night, and then I just fight. I like the combat that much that I'll just sit there.
It feels so good. I mean, last night I was on a specific journey to collect. I don't remember what it was. I don't remember where I was going or why I was doing it. But it was a certain point where I was like starting to get annoyed that I kept getting interrupted walking around. I was like, "Come on! I just want to go to the town and do the thing I got to do." But the combat's just so fun that eventually you just.
There is an item that you can equip on. I think there's 2 characters.
There is.
That have,
there's
where you can get interrupted less.
Yes, there's a support skill, and like you can actually, because of secondary jobs, you can probably get it twice, and even lessen that even more.
Well, I think the note says they don't stack it.
Okay,
they don't stack. Oh, okay,
yeah, so, it'll actually say that. Yeah.
So who did you guys each pick
disappointing,
to start
but with? that definitely helps with my logic in equipping certain support skills. So thank you for reminding me.
Who's your main character for each of you?
It's still Hikari for me. He is OP AF right now.
Is that who you started with, though?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so Hikari.
I'm Thrones.
And mine was Ochette.
Okay, nice.
I would say that all 3 of ours are Temenis are the best ones to start with, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they have like this lore attached to it that's just so epic.
Yeah.
I really like Oswald a lot too.
He's got a great story
too. Or whatever his name.
It's more of a straightforward revenge story, but like the lore is in all the 4 characters.
He is just a cool freaking character, and him and Thrones, and now Hikari. Again, I'm not very good with names. Those 3 are my favorite. Like those 3 are in most of my battles, and they're all in like I think all of them are like level 24 right now. I am bringing in more characters, so I have kind of my system is, and what I'm trying to do is, I'm looking at the map, and I look and go, okay. Because I'm still in chapter 2 technically, I'll be like, okay, there's 2 chapter 2s here. It's for this character and this character. okay, this character I already have leveled up high enough, so I'm going to do theirs first. Yeah. I'm going to bring in the other character for this other chapter 2 to level them up while I'm working through this, so I can immediately go into this chapter.
Exactly.
2.
Yeah, you got to. You really do have to think about a lot of things before you do.
That's the system I'm trying to use. The other thing I like is, and this is what I'm in right now, is they have these like, I don't think they're like chapter things, but they're just story beats for 2 characters. So they will have 2 characters that have like this like intermission type story that you can do and complete in certain areas. And that's the one I'm in now. I think mine.
I just unlocked one of those on the map where it's like, it's called like Paths Meet or Cross or something like that. Yeah. And it's 2 of the characters' heads together, and apparently there's a story there.
Yes. Yeah,
I'm excited to do that.
I'm doing cool. Hikari and Agnias right now.
Nice.
I'm just in the beginning. I have no idea what it's about.
I think mine was like Temenis and somebody else.
Yeah,
maybe.
I have
do they still have travel banter where you can just hit plus to start to listen to them talk? Okay.
I still got that too. Yeah, in between chapter moments, like when you're in a chapter and like
you're just walking around, it'll just like prompt you.
They're thinking things out like in such a complex way with the writing in terms of even though it is like you can see the picture in Derek's background, it's there's not a lot there pixel wise and graphically. Yeah. But all the writing and dialogue and stuff is so thought out. Like, it depends on who you have in your party. Like, your banter will change completely. Like, I have Agnia, and she starts talking to Ochet, who's the beastling, and she's comparing her situation to Agnia's, and like, I don't know. It's just very cool to hear some of that banter and like.
Ochet's the one who's giving you funny ears right now as you talk. She's the one who gives you.
Yeah,
she is.
Now, when you pick your starting character, does the second game allow you to swap them out of your battle lineup, or are they locked in?
It's got a lock for me.
Mine is, I have Thrones locked in as my leader of, so she's always in my party. I can switch that off, but right now she's locked in.
How do you switch it off?
So. I'll have to look, but I think you have to.
I know there's like, so there's there's the, obviously you can go to the shop where you buy items and weapons, and then there's the inn, and then the tavern. Yes, the tavern, and there's like a swap party option. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
There's change party members. I just haven't tried to change her because I like her that much.
I'm only asking because in the first game I can't remove. So I picked Hanit, who's the hunter from the first game.
Maybe you can. Maybe
and I can't take her out of the party at all.
Okay, maybe you can.
Yeah,
I'll have to.
She has like a little padlock on her character icon. So I thought, I wonder. I'm pretty far into the first game. I think I'm like just under 40 hours, and I'm still like in everyone's chapter 3s. So I'm slowly working my way through it.
Like 20 hours.
But I can't. Yeah, probably because it's a long game. But I can't take her out of the party. So I don't know if there's like a moment where it unlocks and it's like, all right, now you can freely. Like, if I finish story, maybe I can.
I swear that I saw a menu option that was like change leader, and I can't remember where I saw it now, but it was not in the tavern. It was not in the tavern.
The fact that it says that your leader's locked in tells me that you should be able to unlock it. But I haven't.
But I personally, I'm like Derek though. I'm so content with Hikari as the leader, and he's so effing powerful right now that I'm like, no, I don't want to change that.
Did you beat his second boss, or are you?
No, I actually went, because when you get stuck somewhere, you can easily go to the tavern and just say, all right, I want to pause this tale where it's at, and then I'll just level up and come back later.
Yeah, I wanted to notate on that. On that feels like Elden Rings. So one of the things we always talked about with Elden Rings is like, hey, I'm stuck on this boss. Okay, I'll just go to the open world and do whatever the hell I want.
Right.
So that's what happened last night. So I'm fighting, and Jeff can share as well. But like, I'm like, okay, I want to keep doing Hikari's story. His is really cool. I really like it.
Yeah, before you go on though, that second chapter is effing awesome for Hikari.
It's really good.
So cool. That's why I stuck with it.
I mean, samurai, dude. Like,
so you
have, it's awesome.
So they do a good job of kind of building up the baddie, and you fight him, and I'm like, I absolutely obliterate him, and I immediately go, no way, this is the boss fight. This is not the boss fight. This is not the boss fight. And so you have a cutscene, and sure enough, it's not the boss fight. So I go into the boss fight, and I'm like, okay, pretty cool. They bring everybody back in. I got my full party. I'm like, all right, I'm going to destroy these guys. Now, keep in mind, the minimum level requirement is 15. All my characters are like 18 and above, and I think one of them at this time was like a 20, 21, which was probably Thrones. And I'm doing okay, But I knew I was gonna lose because I could tell every time I fought this guy, he would just throw out these really powerful attacks, and I would end up having to play defensive, meaning I was always reactionary. And once you're reactionary, you're done. So I was either healing or reviving the entire time, meaning I never had time to stun him.
Yeah.
And I got pissed. I'm like, all right, let me try it again. And every time you try it, you have to redo everything. It does not just load you into just that boss fight. You have to do multiple boss fights. So I was getting really pissed because this is
like an old school save system.
This is like 2 a.m. that I'm doing this. I'm like, this is annoying the shit out of me. So I go, you know what? I'm probably not high enough level, which is bullshit. And I leave. I go and I grind for a little bit. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do her story, which was the one you were just talking about. I just beat her second chapter. I think it was Agnea. I think
in the same town that Throne came from, right? So,
yes. Yeah. So it was probably her. And I beat her boss real easy.
Oh,
and she was just one level beneath.
Yeah.
What's his face?
Temenis's boss is the same way, super easy.
Yeah.
In the second chapter, right? Yeah.
So I destroy that, and then I go back and I fight this boss. And my characters are, again, they're higher level, all of them.
Right.
And I absolutely obliterate him. He was still hard, but he couldn't one-shot me, like, because he has a certain attack that basically swipes the entire party. And if you're not strong enough, he's going to wipe out all of you or most of you.
My experience was way more premature than yours. You actually sound like you were leveled up appropriately when you started the fight. It's just you and I were not aware of what that boss would be like.
He's very punishing.
Yeah, very punishing. So you have to use the there's a skill or something or an item that can put his turn at the end. So basically control the turns. That's the advice that I've read is control where he attacks because you want to get as much damage as you can before he can attack you. And there is a skill that does that. I can't remember what it is though. But anyway, so yeah, I stopped there, went back and did. God damn it! There was something else I wanted to mention. I can't remember what it was now. Oh man. Oh no!
It'll come back to you. I did confirm that the leader of your party, who you select at the beginning of the game, is locked in for both Octopath Traveler 1 and 2.
Oh, wow.
You can swap them out once you've completed Chapter 4, the final element of their stories.
Yeah. Okay.
No, just for that character. So like if you mainline your main character's story somehow, like if you're able to, it's gonna be hard on the last one.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you're gonna die immediately.
Basically, like once you get to Chapter 4, if you do theirs first, then for the rest of the chapters, you could swap that character out.
Is there only 4 chapters per
4
character?
chapters for every character.
There's only 4,
I went to the boss, the really difficult boss in Hikari's second chapter. I went to him when Hikari was 15 and everybody else was a little lower. So the one shot that Derek is talking about, where he, it can be a one shot hit, where he just swipes using his spear. It laid out 3 of my party members like immediately.
Did you start laughing when you saw that a little bit? Though?
I was like laughing out of frustration. Like, what the shit is this? Are you kidding me? And then I just let Hikari like defend while he got slaughtered, and then I just took it back to the tavern and I said, I'm gonna pause his tail. But when you pause a tail, that's great because it pauses it right where you left off, and you can just go do other stuff. So I don't have to come back and do everything over again. And that is kind of a long chapter.
Dan, I do wonder if, with your experience, if that's why in the first game you felt like the second game, from what you guys are saying, from what I've heard and from what I've experienced a little bit, does a much better job of streamlining a lot of these pieces. Totally, of course. They've improved it as you should with the sequel. Yeah. The first game does a pretty decent job, as I'm playing it through again, of allowing you, if you want to quickly team up with the other characters and start going through the chapters. But it sounds like, as the traditional role-playing game, that's I guess what it's called now, TRPG, traditional role-playing game gamer that you are, you like to check every corner, do all the abilities, explore everything, keep people leveled up, check this. Like, is it more of that where you're not in a hurry and you're just kind of going through it? Because I feel like I did connect with those, because I had all 8 after like 15 hours of gameplay maybe in the first game. I had all 8. So
It could have been kind of like how I'm doing with this one, but this one with 2, I'm feeling like there is more of a cohesiveness with the characters. Like there is like that step up. It's still not
very
fully
random in the first game, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Like it's still not fully all the way how I would prefer. So I'm hoping with 3 it's even like kind of more connected.
Cool.
But yeah, like I like to kind of wander around. Like right now, so I found out about this. There's these enemies in the game that are like these little octopuses. Or octopi, right? Octopi. That basically it's like that. It's those rare enemies in RPGs that like have like 5 HP, but basically it's like almost impossible to hit them. So if you actually can kill them, you get a lot of EXP, you get a lot of money, some rare item usually drops. Like, so I found out about them. So I found there's a dude in some town that if you have is it Partitio, I think, you can buy stuff off, you can buy it an accessory off of them that makes it so they pop up more often.
Gotcha.
And it was like 19,000 gold. So it was a pretty expensive item. But
yeah, no kidding.
I had like 30,000 because again I've been mugging all these monsters just left and right. I just beating the shit out of them, taking their money.
That's so cool.
So I just had a bunch of money. So I bought that. I've run into a few of them, but they are like I've only killed one. Like they are like practically impossible to freaking hit, and they run away pretty quickly. So I was kind of just messing around with that just to see if like, can I actually fight these? Maybe it's too early on. My accuracy's not where it needs to be to actually fight them more efficiently. So yeah, I just do kind of stuff like that sometimes. But I think in this one, again, because of the balance of the game and the characters being a bit better, I'm not getting like annoyed where I'm like, I'm just gonna step away from this. I'm still like engaged. And I want to keep playing it. So
the only thing, like, okay, so I absolutely love this game. So let me start. I know we've been talking about it a while, but I want to point out this. Like, I buy everything. And this is one of the games that I actually did not buy or pre-order when it launched. I waited until we had this podcast last week. I listened to Dan talk about it. And then I just applied my same logic of, you buy everything because you can get it 20% off and you divide it into 4 payments. So you're only paying $12 every 2 weeks for this game. Just buy it. So I went ahead and bought it because I was like, even if I don't play it a lot, it's not a big deal. Right? I bought this game and I am actually blown away because I did play a little bit of the first one, but I wrote it off. And that's the thing. This is where perspective matters. I wrote it off as it's just not my type of game. It's old school JRPG. I don't care about this crap. And now I'm giving it a shot and I'm absolutely in love with it to the point where clearly I'm excited about it. I keep updating you guys in the chat. I was excited about doing this podcast. Here's my only criticism, and again, I don't know if it's actually going to be a full accurate criticism, is if you look at the picture I have up there, you see it's a party setting, which is very, very tropish of JRPGs. Like they always have like a bonfire and everybody's sitting around because they're on this journey together. That's what I would want with these games. Like I feel like Chapter 1 should be their origin story, bringing them together. And by the time you get into Chapter 2 and 3, you don't really need to resolve their individual stories. They should be coming together for one, almost like Marvel movies. Like you have your individual Marvel movies and then they all come together for one big like journey to attack one enemy. That's what I'm hoping this game does. I don't know if it does. I know they said their stories kind of come together better, but I'm all the way at the end of Chapter 2 and you guys are saying there's only 4 chapters. I don't know if that's really going to be what happens, but one of the reasons like I loved, and I know Kyle could speak for this, that we loved Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is you're on this journey. Like it's literally like you're traveling this universe with this party. You're at bonfires, you're experiencing this journey together. And that's what I love about RPGs. And I'm hoping that if it isn't happening in this game to the extent that I'm talking about now, that's what I would hope for the third one, is that they would get so good at doing these stories that they can go, hey, we're going to bring 8 characters from different areas. They have their own individual stories, but we're going to bring them together for one big epic story where they all have their individual reasons why they have to fight this enemy. Does that make sense? That's to me what would be epic.
It does.
That's
although
what I was saying last
the game is
episode.
pitched as 8 travelers, 8 adventures. So like it is actually pitched as 8 different characters who have their own adventure, but they just happen to be teaming up to help each other for whatever reasons. And
see,
okay. So it's not going to happen in this.
It does. So it does pitch it that way. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like last week when we first spoke about it. Like with the third one, ideally, what I would like potentially, and obviously there's a lot of things you're weaving in and out, so I get it. It can be complex, but I like the idea of there being all their own separate little things that they're dealing with, but there being some kind of through line where everything is connected, right? And it's like,
that's what I want.
And you can even be like, oh, it was their destiny. You could do some cliche like thing like that, or you could not, whatever. But like ultimately there's something where all of these things are connected for a reason, and they all came together, and there's ultimately a big bad.
Dude, I really do wish there was more dialogue in the joining department, because it makes no sense that I stumbled upon Temenis and he saw that I had people like Throne in my group, and he was like, hey, can I join your group? Like there should have been more of like a struggle, at least morally, or your dialogue.
And your main character is silent when that's happening, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, which is weird to me. Like they're just sitting there, and that character's talking to you, and it's like, well, why is my main character, who clearly does talk because they have their own chapters, is suddenly a silent protagonist? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like
it's just really weird, especially having Particio and Throne in the same team is so ass backwards to me, because Particio makes his mission statement like, I'm going to end poverty, and Throne is like, I'm just going to steal from
everyone in this city.
I'm just going to exactly. Yeah,
so I mean
and
there
laugh
are
at
some
them.
disconnects, and I'm glad you brought that up, Tim, because like now that I think about it, Octopath Traveler, okay, got it. It's 8 different paths traveling together, whatever. But like Dan said, I guess what my fantasy would be is that you can do that. I don't have any problems with how you're starting it. And we didn't really talk about it here, and I will talk about it. The stories, aside from a couple, are really intriguing. That's the other reason I'm playing this game. So
same here.
The gameplay is top of the line, in my opinion, for a JRPG. It's top of the line. I feel so powerful when I stagger an opponent and then like stab him 8 times and he blows up, it feels good.
So good.
It feels good. It feels like, hell yeah, I just dominated you.
Or if you in one turn stagger a huge group of enemies and they're all staggered at once.
That feels so good.
Oh yeah.
Like I like
Temenis, or not Temenis, Oswald has that fireball attack to everybody, and if they're all weak to enemy, you can stagger all of them.
Feels so good.
It feels so good.
That's what
and
I
you
was
get
just
7 extra moves.
Dude,
of like
one of my favorites was I'm sure there's arrow users I know in Octopath Traveler 2. I'm sure there's one that has some kind of arrow storm move. So I did this arrow storm, and they were all weak to arrows, and they needed to be hit like 3 or 4 times each, and it just happened to hit them all. And it's like one move, boom, they're all staggered. I literally was like,
I love that. That's the best feeling. It's the sound
effects.
I
was just gonna say when you
like, it's just everything just feels so good to do in the game.
When you get like higher level, like I mean not super high level, but Oswald's like 22, 23, and then you go in and you're traveling in areas that's like level 5 enemies.
Yeah.
And then Oswald's my first guy, and I'm like, okay,
you just do the fireball, they're all dead. Yeah.
And everybody blows up, and you get your 2
XP. It does so much damage. It's insane. It's so much damage.
So the gameplay is king for me. It's the main reason I'm playing it. But the individual stories, like I did no research, by the way. I listened to you guys on the podcast talk about some of the characters and stuff like that, because y'all played the demo. I didn't play the demo. I was semi-interested in some of what y'all were saying. Again, I usually check out with story stuff. I didn't remember any of the characters that you were talking about. So when I went on there, and not even just to be funny, it really was. I was like, she's got boobs. I'm picking her. So I picked Thornage for her boobs.
God damn it.
But she's got her opening chapter is really cool. Her opening chapter is great.
But she is super cool. Now that I've done all 8 chapters, I would say she's still my favorite. The whole story is, for anybody who's listening, is like, well, why is she cool? Because she's part of this like crew that's ran by a mom and a father. So she calls them mother and father. They run the town. They're snakes.
From the underground, basically.
Yes, and they're this underground crew, and they're extremely evil. They're corrupt. They're all jacked up. They're always manipulating and backstabbing each other. And that's her story. Like, her story is like the lead chapter, without spoiling it, is basically mom and dad are behind some like crazy stuff that you get revealed later that you did not know was happening to you. And so your whole goal is to break free from this snake crew. And you're wanting, in order to do that, by the way, you have like this thing around your neck that has two keys. Mom has one key and dad has the other key. So you have to kill them, because they're not going to just hand you over and be like, yeah, we're going to set you free. They want you in their crew for life. They want to control you. They want to own you. You're their puppet. So she's like, okay, I have to set on this journey to get their keys. That means I have to kill my mother and my father, which, by the way, it's not their biological.
Yeah, those are titles. Yeah, it's
just their titles. And they're in two different locations, and that's the journey she sets out to do. But there's a lot of twists and turns. Again, some of it's cheesy, but for the most part, it's very, very intriguing. And there was some stuff where I was like, oh crap, that guy backstabbed me that I didn't think was gonna backstab me.
Right.
And things like that. Yeah. And there's other characters as well. I'm forgetting his name, but I'm gonna call him the Catholic one.
Temenus,
Temenus is very sarcastic. He's complete douchebag.
Yeah. He is. And it's
him.
So funny because he's a man of the cloth, and he's over there like in front of that crick, the guard who is a sacred guard or whatever, who protects, like he's like a knight of the cloth or whatever,
like a Templar or something.
Yeah, basically, he is new, and he is shocked that Temenus is saying some of the things he's saying because they sound so.
So
like,
it's basically
Tim
and
beliefs.
I on a journey together, and I'm Temenus. And
God damn it.
Tim's like, wait, what, bro?
Wait,
You're
you can't
supposed to
say
be
that.
like a Christian.
I'm just Particio.
You
I'm like,
can't
let's
say
be
that.
nice to everybody over here, guys.
You can't.
I wanted to point out a couple other just quick things about this before we move on, but I just think this game does a great job of catching you up as well. These games are dense, and there's so much going on. If you do what I did, where I played this game a lot at release, I don't remember, Derek, if you remember me talking about it, but I played it a lot. Then I put it down. I came back to it that summer, played a little more. I was up in like the mid to late 20s of hour count. And then I just set it aside completely because the rest of 2018 was pure insanity.
Oh my God. There was so much garbage that year.
So much garbage in 2018. So I just remember, I remember looking at it and going like, I need to go back to this game. But the more time passed, it's almost like when you don't respond to someone's text and after it's been too long, is this weird now? So like, I didn't want to return. So I finally did. When this game came out, I was like, you know what? I have so much time invested in that first game, even though it was from a long time ago. I'm going to dive in and try it. And right away, I was like, I don't remember a lot of these characters. I don't remember what their motivation is. So I went to the journal just to see if there was like maybe a summary, like what happened last time. Not only is there a summary, but you can replay pretty much every scene from their story. Yeah. So that's in the first game. I'm going to go ahead and assume that's in the second game too, where like if
there's at least what I saw was diary.
Well, what's good about that is like Derek's talking about, and Dan, you were saying this too. Like, you wish the stories would combine, and I agree with you. That'd be really cool. But let's just assume that they don't. Then let's say by the time you get to someone's chapter 4, you might have been like, I don't remember what's happening here. You can go back and check out the journal, and not only will it have a written description of what happened and what you're doing, but you can watch any of the scenes. So like there was one character who I had totally forgotten that she's trying to hunt down these guys with these tattoos that murdered her dad. She saw when she was a little girl, and she saw they had these crow tattoos on their arm, neck, and shoulder or something like.
I vaguely remember that.
Remember that? Okay, and so I kind of was like, oh, that makes sense. But then when I hit play, I watched the little cutscene happen again. I was like, oh yeah, I totally remember this now.
So you're re-seeing.
You can actually rewatch the whole scene, which is cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm invested in this one. I don't see me not beating it unless I get stuck on a boss, which I think this game really is like, hey, just grind, you'll be okay. Yeah. My question to you is, I have Octopath Traveler on PC, but I have it in Epic Game Store, so I can't play it on my Steam Deck without doing a workaround, and I'm not doing it.
Yeah, right.
So I'm gonna buy it either on Steam or on Switch. Does it have like good characters and good stories as well? Even if it doesn't,
the second one is better, but yes, it does.
But like I'm talking on like an individual,
part
hard.
It absolutely does. I would say there's at least kind of like what you guys are saying with how there's 2 or 3 that are just great, and maybe an additional 2 on top of that are still also very good.
Yeah, good, but like there's not, the stakes aren't as high, basically.
Well,
That's
I
my
would
only
say
criticism
it's
with
about
some
the
of them.
same here, where
Yeah.
you're gonna have 3 to 4 that are like, "Oh, I want to find out what happens next," and the
Yeah.
rest of, like, one of them's an apothecary, and literally his storyline is, "I want to go out and just help people in the world." So you get to
Yeah.
a new town and you have like a new
That's-
storyline where
That's like Particio, yeah.
And so like chapter 2 of this apothecary story had a, like, you meet this character, you see how she's like tricking this whole town, and you decide you're going to stop her from doing that. You face off with her, you beat her at the end, and she goes to jail, and that's the end of that chapter. And now the next chapter is like, now he's going to head over here to see if they need any help. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like some of them aren't that interesting, even though the chapter was fun. It was fun.
And I would say Agnia has a lot of that too, where she's just like, I just want to be a dancer out in this world that I'm in.
And there's other
going to
ones
different
who are
towns
like
to be a
the
star.
girl
basically.
I talked about, her story is great, where she saw her dad get murdered. It was like traumatizing.
That's compelling.
And she wants to go hunt down. So each chapter is her hunting down
But
one.
the apothecary in this
with
one is
Agnia,
more interesting.
Oh, definitely.
I will say with Agnia, even though like I personally am like, I don't care about you wanting to be a dancer, all the characters are real over the top, too happy and stuff like that. I did watch a little. I'm pretty good at like figuring out when it's safe to skip a cutscene and when you should listen. And so anytime I'm like, oh, I know what this one's gonna be about, I just skip it. Well, I saved it for one where this lady comes and helps her and like kind of sticks up for her, and I was like, I don't think this lady's who Agnia thinks she is. And sure enough, it plays out where like there's something mysterious about this lady, because a girl walks up to her and she's like, why were you so nice to her? Why did you help her? And she's like, haha, my plans will all come out eventually. Ha 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 ha.
Oh no.
So I was like, okay, I don't care about Agnia, but now because you are corrupt, I do want to see what is your plans. Why did you kind of like back Agnia up? Like, what part are you going to play?
There's certainly some of that in both games, and that happens in both games, and I think they do a really good job in general with it. I will say that the gameplay between both, and I can say this confidently, having played through 2 of the opening chapters of the second one in the demo, and based on everything you guys are saying, it sounds like you're describing the first game. Like everything, there's a few things we talked about, like the day-night cycle and a few other like quality of life things they've added for sure. If you went back and played the first game now, you'd probably be like, well, why can't you ... when you're in the menu? Or like, it's probably little things, right?
Right.
But overall,
the combat's the same.
They are identical, like playing through and like breaking enemies and like the types of weapons and the types of magic and the classes and the secondary jobs.
That's the TRPG element that we're all talking
exactly
about.
That's exactly it. So like,
which I thought was funny that there was a guy, the same guy reviewed these 2 games on IGN, same exact reviewer. He gave Octopath Traveler a 9.3, and I watched his review just like recently.
Oh, that's when they used to do decimals, and that's funny.
He was completely in love with the game. He was like, this is just a amazing game. He then reviews Octopath Traveler 2 and gives it a 7.0. Same guy.
What?
That makes no sense.
What?
He said it was too safe. It didn't change enough.
Sure.
So I was actually surprised. I was like, okay.
Listen, like I get that there's like kind of a skeleton there that's the same, but clearly like it's kind of like Horizon Zero Dawn versus Forbidden West, right? Like there's a skeleton there that's the same, but clearly like Forbidden West is like way more improved, right? They added so much more to it. It's more improved. Like here, it's like they added a better cast of characters. The writing's better. There's things connected better. Like the combat is kind of more or less the same, but this is clearly like the real, almost like definitive version of Octopath, right?
Well, the first one has one of the most annoying languages, and that's my main character. And I like her story where she's trying to find her old mentor because he disappeared, and lots of mystery around where he went and what happened to him. And so I like the story, but they talk in this very strange, like old English, and I mean old with an E on the end English. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of thing. But they add E's on, like, even in the written dialogue. She'll say something like, we have to go hunt whatever, but like they'll add E's to words. I'm like, why are you doing that for me? I don't understand why you're adding E's to the written dialogue. But they'll also
immersion.
They'll add like EN, so it'll be like we must then find him. And it's like, why is there E? Like it's a weird language. I don't know what it is. It's like some kind of weird Gaelic or something. It's
I respect that
odd.
it would make more sense if they kept that language when that character's talking to her own people. But like, that's so weird to have that type of immersive balance in a game where you're like playing pixelated characters. Like, it makes no sense to do it, you know? It's so like we're all pixelated. We know we're playing a video game. What are you doing?
Yeah. So, but I would argue that I do think the first one does have interesting characters and is written well, but I haven't seen enough of 2 to know, yes, this is a significant jump. Like, I think of Horizon and God of War games as insanely significant jumps, even though, yes, some base core gameplay things are the same. Those are incredible jumps in quality and in scope and in.
I wasn't so much saying that as far as the same amount of quality jump.
I don't think the Octopath Traveler 2 jumps are that significant, but they are there for sure. They're there.
But I think with this game, like, I'm not over exaggerating. If you're on the fence and you're like, well, I like JRPGs.
We talked about it for like an hour right now. We love this game, right? Like,
I absolutely, awesome. And I haven't even.
I would just tell them to play the demo, like, and try a couple first chapters. Yeah.
But my point is like, I don't think there's much improvement you could make on the combat side. I'm not saying you couldn't come up with systems, but I don't want you to. If it's not broke, do not fix it. Like, it's that good to me.
And Tim, I like that you told me about the secondary jobs being in the first game, because that is an element of the game that, like,
that's what I want to
not change
about.
That. Do not change that.
I absolutely
that is so
love
cool.
that. Like, Hikari he's a swordsman, and so I'm killing it with my sword, and then I run into, I'm forgetting now what secondary job I added to him. I think it's clergy or whatever. Yeah. But now he can use lightning, fire, ice. So he's basically
compensating for the people that are not in the party with you, basically.
He's a god. Like, I don't need anybody else.
Their outfit changes too when you do that.
Which is cool.
I love in JRPGs when you change job classes or you alter something and it visually changes. I freaking love that. Dude.
I added Partitio's got the warrior, which is Hikari's skill set. And now he looks like Hikari a little bit, and I'm like, I can't have 2 of these guys playing around.
Dan, was it Final Fantasy IV that really popularized the job system?
5. It was 5. It was 5. Or 3. No, I think 3 had it, but then 5 like really like expanded on it. 5's the one that really like blew it up. Like,
it's a hell of a feature. Dude.
I love a good.
Do not ever change that. If you're gonna change anything with the combat, just make it.
I
would expect a third game sooner than we got a second, and it would be very similar. But I could be wrong.
I just want to say this, because we did talk about this game a lot, and this is what my point was when I first started talking about, like, I didn't plan on buying this. I think this is, so far, I know we're early on, this is the surprise hit of the year for me, personally. Like, I really liked Fire Emblem Engage. I haven't beat it yet, but I really liked it. But this blows it completely out of the water.
That's how it's striking me too.
Yeah. Can I say that I also actually wasn't even considering buying it just because I was like unsure because of the first one. I was like, oh, I liked it, but then I stopped.
Kyle
and then
was
I played
the
demo last week. I played the demo the week before, and I was like, all right, no, you got me. Like, I'm buying this. I'm doing it.
Kyle got through. Just to speak for Kyle, I'm gonna put words literally in his mouth right now.
Do it.
But he said that this is according to his Facebook post in the current gen group. He said that he couldn't finish the first one because it was something about the material just wasn't connecting with him. It wasn't the combat. It was like I didn't care about anything. But the second one, he can't stop playing too. He's in the same boat as the rest of us, where it's just the stories are just so good, and the combat was never the problem. It's just the writing is so good in the second one.
Last thing I'll ask about this second game, because the first game is certainly in a pattern where it's like, make sure your characters are up to a certain level, start the chapter. You have a whole bunch of cutscenes. You might get sent to like a new cave or new forest where it ends in a big boss fight, and you go back and wrap up that story. Is that kind of the pattern of this second game?
Yeah.
Okay. So that pattern, if the story and character trappings around it aren't really compelling, that can wear on you. And I think that happened to a lot of people, myself included, with the first game, where I was kind of like, I don't want to do another chapter with this character who's not that compelling to me. I just want to get to the other chapter. But I'm 10 levels too low. You know what I mean? It can really wear on you.
I can understand that. But I think the game for me, again, if you've played the first one, maybe you're not having as much fun with the second one. I get it. I wasn't, by the way, like trying to condemn the IGN reviewer. I was just saying weird that he was infatuated with the first one, and then there was such a huge drop off in the second one, even though most of it is good changes that were changed, and then the stuff that was unchanged was already amazing.
Excellent quality of life stuff.
Yeah, like the gameplay to me is that good that I don't go, God, I gotta do another fight. This is so stupid.
The visuals are very improved. I'll say that too. Like
Definitely.
I
think
also
so, they are.
think it's balanced really well. So again, there is no easy, medium, or hard.
Mhm.
I am
except
losing.
for that one boss fight.
Yeah, except for that one boss, but that's you just gotta like figure out how.
I want to say though, to be fair to the game, I want to say there are strategies that we could have used that if you're level 15, you could have beat them. And I don't think I'm smart enough to follow it. Like, let me put it this way. I didn't get to talk about it. The way I beat him is I knew his weaknesses because he has 3 phases. And if you don't know his weaknesses and you waste a turn doing something that barely does anything to him or doesn't stagger him, he will absolutely make you pay for that. But if you know his weaknesses and you're on point, you will destroy him. So yes, your level
now that
does
I have,
matter.
Second jobs for every character now.
Exactly. That also matters too, because if his weaknesses don't align with your party, meaning like you don't have a second job unlocked, you don't have the right party member equipped.
That was my problem the first time.
You're gonna get destroyed. But if you have the stuff, you can wipe him out.
Yeah, what I like to do too is with like some of those battles to kind of like get ahead, like as far as like being able to stack up multiple attacks, you know, like kind of build up. But it's just right in the first round, just defend. So then I'm gonna take less damage that first shot, and then kind of start going through and hitting with every different type of weapon to see. All right, what are they weak against? Okay, they're weak again.
I at first was using defend a little bit, but I think using like buffs against them, like throwing their attacks down or shields down or something like that is a better strategy.
I actually think that's with him, too. You don't get to defend. So when the battle launches, he literally hits you, and he knocks two of your. He literally hits you first, and he knocks 2 of your guys dazed. Like they're just like,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them are obvious. Like if I was fighting a big tree and it's got a weakness of fire, obviously, an axe, right? Like, obviously. Yeah. Then there's other ones that I don't understand. Like there was a giant turtle, and the dagger was something I was weak to. I don't know why.
Sure. Yeah, I know. Sometimes
I don't know why.
Makes no sense.
All right.
The only pattern I've noticed. The only pattern I've noticed is certain, like, most enemies that are, like, weak to the dagger are also weak to, like, what's it called?
The sword?
No, where you would impale them.
Spear.
Spear.
So most of, like, the weapons are aligned. Like, if it's a sword, it goes with the axe. If it's a
That's probably
dagger,
part of the balancing. They're like, you're likely to have someone with one of these weapons.
Right.
Yeah,
there's some balancing there.
I do think it's funny the enemies that you find that are weak to holy light, and I'm like, what determines that?
Yeah,
that's
again, some of that's obvious. It's like skeletons and ghosts. Like
these guys are demons. They don't believe in the Lord.
Yeah, some of that makes sense.
Believe in the Lord.
Yeah, one time I was like fighting a mountain goat, and it was weak to light magic, and I was like, why?
It's a dark ass goat.
It was a dark goat. It was a dark goat. I guess goats are satanic, right? Is that a thing?
Yeah. This game is for me, like Hogwarts is easily my number 1 for the year because of my own biases that I brought into the game. But like this is competing for me with Hi-Fi Rush. Like I mean, it's that level of like.
It's a surprise.
Yeah,
it's a surprise.
Hi-Fi Rush literally was a surprise. It came out of nowhere.
I love it, man.
But that game is so unique and like fresh, and it's got some great visuals and a really cool, inventive like Saturday morning cartoon story. Yeah. That I'm like, it's neck and neck for me. Like Octopath and Hi-Fi Rush.
I love this, dude. I love that, and this. I feel like this happens to at least one, sometimes 2 of us. I would say every year, but maybe that's not true. But anyway, like you are not traditional.
I know what you're saying. We just love when this
gamer.
happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, not only were you surprised with this, but you're hooked on it. You're loving it. I think that's awesome. I think it's happened to each of us at different times.
I only actually like it because the IGN guy gave it a 7. If you would have given it a 9,
It's a Derek 7.
if you would have given it a 9, it actually would have been overrated.
That makes
trash.
sense. That actually, this actually makes total sense.
But he's my reason I can feel safe playing this swimming in seven.
In your safe space.
I haven't checked on Metacritic, but the score is actually lower for this one than the first one, right? Because of
no, it depends on which platform. It depends on which platform. So like on Switch, it was 83 versus 84. So
okay.
But on PS5, it has a 86. So like if you look at look at like the top possible score based on every platform, then it's 3 points ahead. 86.
Yeah, but the first one wasn't.
It deserves to be higher score in my opinion.
So a lot of people
they improved things.
A lot of people that would review it that are strictly PlayStation users wouldn't have the first.
I think it eventually came out on everything though. I think
it did.
It just didn't get reviewed on everything. So like Xbox One version didn't get reviewed.
Like I'm on I think Derek's on PC too, so he can Steam Deck it, right?
But the PC version of 2 is at 79 and 1 was at 80. So it just depends on who's reviewing it and what kind of
I will say
like a judge. So there you go.
we mentioned briefly the visuals, and I will say that throwing this on my PC, putting it in 4K, it does nothing like in terms of resources. It hogs 0 resources because this game is
your computer's almost getting cold.
Demanding.
It's like
exactly. It gets like I have my LED lights change colors when the CPU gets a little hot, and it does not change from green to light blue at all.
It gets brighter
this game
green.
In full 4K on my 4K monitor looks pretty, like the backgrounds at least, because that's where it looks really pretty.
Yeah, I do love like the moving water and the modern stuff.
Like in your background, you see like the bugs and stuff, like the or whatever.
I remember when this game was first announced, and I know that I'm pretty sure Dan, you and I were part of this conversation too, but we were just like freaking out about the
visuals,
the visuals and the way that they do focus, like the kind of out of focus backgrounds where they come into focus.
I love that perspective, and
me too. Okay. I still love it.
And again, it's like when you go into buildings, it just it feels like a what the hell's the word I'm trying to say? Is it diorama?
Maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe that's
like a pop-up book a little bit.
Yeah. It's so cool. I really like it.
This does make me want to go back, especially because of you guys already sung the praises of the first game, even though I ignored it because I was just like, turn-based RPG is not for me. But it does make me want to go back and play that game because I know they're separate, like stories, worlds, all that stuff.
I think if you and I would do this, Jeff. I would go on Steam and wish list the first one. I think when we have that sell in like 2 weeks, I think this will be one of the games.
Oh, it's gotta be. It's gotta be. Yeah.
It's also a good one to take a break from. So like, it's kind of like playing Bayonetta, right? Like if you play too much Bayonetta in a row, you're gonna get kind of burnt out.
I just want to own it where I have access.
So like, this is a good one where it's like, if you finish the second game, you put your 50, 60, whatever hours into it, and then maybe later this year when it's like, I want to revisit that, but I want new stories, play the first one. And that's
I'm totally going to now. And I think there's actually a mobile version of the game that came out like 2 years ago or maybe last year. I don't know.
It was last fall.
Where it's a prequel of the first game. And I'm like, that's interesting. Cool. And apparently you can play as all 8 people in combat, which is
pretty cool.
Weird. I don't know how busy that's going to be. But it is a mobile game, so you got to think about that.
Well, I like the Fire Emblem Heroes game, and that was strictly mobile.
I loved Fire Emblem Heroes. That was a really fun game. Surprisingly,
these type of games actually work on like mobile platforms.
Well, one of the things I wanted to do in this episode, in addition to talking about things that we've watched, and we're going to close out with stuff that we've watched, including the new episodes of stuff and movies, because there's a bunch of stuff to cover there. But I wanted to make sure we took a few minutes to celebrate PlayStation 2, the best-selling console of all time. This was the anniversary when it first released. Of course, just Japan. It didn't come out to the U.S. till that following fall. But that was in the year 2000. I was a young whippersnapper sitting there in high school listening to my Sony pony buddy who thought Nintendo was just for babies and always made fun of me for like a Nintendo. And he was just talking about the PlayStation 2. So I already had a built-in I hate you and I hate Sony in my heart.
I've always hated ponies.
But thankfully, I overcame that because it ended up being, having some of the best games. So what I want to do is I just want to talk a little bit about PlayStation 2, kind of revisit some of the, like when it was launched and that kind of stuff and the versions and just how successful it was. But then we'll wrap that part up with our top 3, just for each of us personally. What are your 3 favorite games? If you can narrow it down to 3. I actually had a hard time. I had like 7 and I didn't want to pick 3. But we'll narrow down 3 of our favorites from that console. It doesn't have to be exclusive to it, just whatever you played on the PlayStation 2. That's fine. All right, but as a reminder, of course, it was Ken Kutaragi, right, who developed the PlayStation 1 and then apparently began PS2 development right after PlayStation 1 launched. So like mid-90s, he was already working on the PS2, already planning things out, what they wanted, things like having a DVD player built in, for example, which was huge, right? Like you could, I remember using it for our DVD player too, and that was awesome. Even my wife had to learn how to navigate, how to use the PS2 because that was our DVD player.
Same here.
So like that was a really big deal.
That was our only DVD player for years. Yeah.
Yep. And of course, that's one of the ways that Nintendo looked like they were so far behind because Xbox and PlayStation 2, you could play DVDs, and the GameCube, it was like, we have tiny little discs that you could put in there. And it's like, what?
Stop making proprietary freaking cartridges and discs.
Stop it, Nintendo. Yeah. Even when they made the Wii with CD-sized games, still couldn't play DVDs on there. Thanks, Nintendo.
That makes sense.
They're the best. They're the best. But of course, so it came out in March 4th of the year 2000. We're recording on March 4th, 2023. So 23 years ago in Japan.
2000.
Thank you for that, Conan. And then October 26th, it hit North America. Do you guys remember how much it cost when it launched?
What, the PS2?
300.
In the US, PS2.
350?
I think it was 300.
It was $299. Yeah, it was $300.
Okay.
Yep. Do you guys know, without looking, don't look it up, how many units has it sold as of January?
150 million.
I was going to say 154. I was going to try to be exact.
154.1.
It is currently, it's listed as 158.7 million.
Wow.
I was the closest then, technically.
True. It's true.
By Price is Right rules, you are correct.
Yeah. What was the last bet?
Closest without going over.
154.1. Yeah.
And one cent.
I hate those guys. I mean, I would do the same thing, but I just hate it.
I love the Family Guy bit where they did that, and the contestant just looked at the person and said, F you. And it was like, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I remember when this thing launched, it was like a cultural moment. And and I'm really glad that I did, let go of the fact that I had one kind of jerky Sony pony that I knew from school. I didn't let that ruin my experience because I ended up catching up on all the PS1 games. I had borrowed a PS1 and played through some like Final Fantasy VII, some of the big ones, right? I played through Suikoden, but I never had really become a Sony kid. I only played a couple of traditional RPGs on there. And then when I got the PS2, I started playing tons of different games on there, action games and RPG and strategy games and everything, racing games. Like all of a sudden I was like, whoa, this is the real deal. So I really, really loved that system. Now they came up with a couple of different models of it, of course, the 2 most popular being the original standard, but then they came out with the Slim, which I never owned one of those.
I didn't either, but I used to test consoles when I worked at some like Best Buy knockoff place for like a couple months. And we had, at that time, it was mainly PS3 and Xbox Ones. Or Xbox, is that right? Is that the right gen? Xbox Ones or Xbox 360?
PS2 and Xbox.
Okay, so then it would be 360. So that was the era of gaming that I was working in.
360 and PS3. Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of Slims came through, and I'm like, these are slick. Wow, and they're really tiny. Yeah, they worked really well. I like those.
Do you guys know, what's your guess, when did they discontinue?
Oh, Lord.
PlayStation.
I mean, it was a while. It kept going, like in other parts of the world too. Jesus.
When did I don't even remember when the PS3 came out. Did Last of Us launch with it?
Like worldwide discontinued? Like
yeah, and I'm sure that in some ways they're still selling units of it somewhere, but broadly discontinued.
2013.
Dude, you got it.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, there you go.
That's crazy.
Now it
2013 and
2013.1.
It was officially
it
was officially discontinued after 12 years of production, which is the longest lifespan of any video game console.
Wow. Yeah. Nintendo's like, hold my beer.
We got
this Switch is it's gonna outlast everything.
It might. I don't know. I mean, think about it this way. Think of how long the Switch is out now. It would need to be 5 more years
Yeah.
True.
like to match that. That's
Yeah.
great. That's a long time.
Well, that actually does make sense then, because even if they haven't even announced a new console yet, right?
I haven't.
So they would have to announce the console and then like a year of build up for the new console, and then they're still going to sell the old Switches for several years. So that they could break that
I
record.
think the new console is going to just be an upgrade of the Switch, because I think they're going to want to hold on to the name brand.
Yeah.
So I think
I would not blame them for that, because consumers will not want to latch on to like, what's this called? Whatever. Exqueezy
But they did that. They did that with the Wii U.
No.
They did that with the Wii U, and saw what happened there. So
Yeah.
True.
I saw that. So
It's like that's
True.
Well, this would be smarter if they did like Switch 2 or Switch Pro, which
Super
they can lump
Switch,
in as a Switch. You know?
Yeah.
Super
Or
Switch would be fun.
yeah, just have something
Super
that fails.
Switch.
Like one of the reasons
Love it.
PS2
Love
continued
it.
to be so popular
Yeah,
is because
Super
PS3.
bitch. I don't think they're gonna do it.
The PS3 was such a colossal
Why?
mess at the
Yes.
beginning, at least. So PS2 continued to be their most appealing console by a lot.
Yeah, they bungled the. I remember reading up on it later after I got back into gaming and stuff. I remember reading about like the price announcement and stuff, and like how Microsoft easily overshadowed them with their 360 pricing announcement.
Right. And of course, they ended up
$99
outselling the 360 by just barely. They didn't. People talk about it as if it was a blowout. Like it was neck and neck. They pretty much tied with PlayStation having a slight edge of overall console sales in the end. But for almost that entire generation, 360 was where it was at. For the most.
And
That was
also,
the
you have
only
to
console I
remember-
owned. Yeah.
You have to remember when they passed it, like what was the price of each console. So the Xbox 360 got more people to buy it when it was at its regular price, not at a lower discounted price. So
Correct.
people forget that. They always get obsessed with the numbers. But
Well,
if I sell you 1 million things for $1 a piece, or you sell me 750,000 things for $2 a piece, who made more money?
Yeah,
Quick
true.
math.
well, everyone got a second job to get the PS3 when it first came out. So
I got a third job to get.
I'll be
PS3
honest
and
with you guys. I never played a PS3 until I worked at that place for 2 months and tested
Oh,
consoles.
yeah,
Never once touched a PS3.
It took me I think a year or two into the generation to even get the PS3. Like I was just kind of starting to date my wife, and she actually like helped me buy one, and I was like, she's the one.
Nice. There you go.
She's the
Pros
one.
right then and
She's
there.
the
See, I was like, you guys see how obsessed I am now? I was really bad back then. Like, I bought everything as soon as possible. Like,
Wow.
everything.
Wow.
All right, guys, I
those were not easy to get a hold
I
of.
want to ask you, what do you think are in the top 10 Metacritic scores without looking at them? Don't go look
Oh
at them
jeez.
Okay.
for PlayStation 2 games. And this is multi-platform too.
Grand Theft Auto.
Grand
Metal
Theft
Gear
Auto 3.
Solid 3?
Wait, Grand Theft Auto 3, you said, right?
Mhm.
Grand Theft Auto 3 A-Spec is in the top 10. What'd you say, Jeff?
Metal Gear Solid 3? Is that PS2?
It is,
Yep.
but it's not in
Yep.
the top 10.
Metal Gear Solid 2.
So 2 then?
Yeah, 2's in the top 10.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember seeing one of them in the top 10.
God of War.
Like Sly
the-
Cooper.
God of War, the first one.
They're not in not on Metacritic. They're not in the top 10.
Oh.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Sly Cooper, you said?
Nope,
Yeah.
not Sly Cooper, not God of War. Nope. Those both scored highly, but
Guitar
talking like-
Hero,
we're talking like 94s and above.
Guitar Hero.
Oh, I let me track that back a little bit. God of War is tied for 10th at 94 with a bunch of other games. So
Okay.
the original God of War was up there.
God of War 2?
Nope.
Oh.
Devil May Cry.
Oh, Kingdom Hearts?
Nope, not
Yeah,
Kingdom Hearts. Madden
Really?
and nope, Madden NFL. A couple of entries
Oh, get
got into the
Oh,
90s.
of course.
That's
those
actually
those
back
were hot
when-
back then, though.
Yeah,
Sure,
every sports game got high
3
reviews.
Grand Theft Auto games.
Vice
all
City.
3 of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
Grand
San
Theft Auto
Andreas,
3,
yeah.
San Andreas, and Vice City. were
Kingdom
all-
Hearts 2?
Resident Evil 4,
Is even 4.
That makes sense.
and Tony
Yeah.
Hawk Pro Skater 3, which is the
Oh,
highest
I don't remember
scoring,
that one.
tied for the highest
Wow.
scoring.
Wow.
I feel like I stopped at 2 because that was the last N64 release, wasn't it?
And Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 is also on this list. Dang.
Wow.
God. How is Kingdom Hearts not on there? Or like,
I know,
well,
I
at
know.
least 2, because 2 is like
2's amazing.
people love 2. Like I think that's like.
I mean,
the
there's so
favorite
many that were
overall.
in the 90s. I think Kingdom
Sure.
Hearts is somewhere like Prince of Persia:
It's not
Sand of
top
Time,
10.
Final Fantasy 10 and 12, Soul Calibur 2, Okami, but they're all just like they're not in the top 10.
Sure.
Just because they were like a 92 instead of a 94.
Well,
So,
Final
like,
Fantasy 10 should be in the top 10. That's egregious.
list. Well,
You
speaking
just-
of what should be in the top list, let's talk about our top 3 favorites, and then we will move into some headlines and wrap up with stuff
I
we're
did
watching.
3 times 5, so.
So you have 15. You have your top
Why-
15. Okay, great.
why was that?
Why are you like this?
why did you do this?
I am
Why
a
are
rule
you the way that
The
you
way
are?
You
Why?
are.
I hate so
Um,
much about the things you choose to be.
I love how his cadence on that line
Yeah.
is man. I
Instead
hate
of just lie,
so
and
much.
I hate you, it's
I-
thought
I like
out
that-
expressions of.
I like when
that.
Toby leaves and he does his exit interview. He literally wrote down, what is it? Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
What gives
What
you the
gives
right?
you
What
the
gives you the right? Who gives you
And he
the
has to act,
But
it,
he's trying to be
and
cool in front of
he
Holly
has
because
to
he likes
say it
Holly.
like in a nonchalant, like easygoing
right?
way.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Toby.
What a good
Yeah,
twist because he
yes.
had so many like mean things
And he
planned.
Oh
for
my
Sophie
God,
that
yes.
day. So what a good
Yes.
twist that he didn't want
Yes.
to make Holly upset with him.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna go alphabetically. So Dan, why don't you kick us off? What are your top 3? And if you want to throw some honorable mentions, that's fine. But whatever, like, hey, these are my top
All
3.
Well,
Final
definitely
Fantasy
no
games.
Final Fantasies because those fucking suck.
I knew it. I knew it. You're a hater.
No, so my first one is actually my second favorite Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy X. That is my first favorite PS2 game.
Okay.
That game was, I remember getting that like right when it came out, and I was like super excited because it was like, I think it was like one of the first games I like kind of like saved up some money for myself, and I like was able to go to the store. My mom drove me there and I bought it. And like, dude, that still to this day, that beginning cutscene, like the CG like FMV cutscene
So
of like
good.
Titus is just sitting there on some like bench or whatever, and they're about to do like the blitzball game, and like the music's like kicking in, it's all metal and shit. Like that blew my mind, dude.
And we didn't know who what's his name Auron was. We didn't know him
Yeah,
yet,
Or-
but he
yeah.
looked cool standing there
Auron.
looking over
Yeah,
everything.
Orin, yeah, he's just standing there with the sword, and he's
Yeah.
got like the jug
The
of
jug.
like
Yeah.
the sake, and he's just looking out at Sin that's about to destroy like everything. Like,
Yep.
that was amazing. And then number 2 would be Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear. That was the first.
Gear.
That was the first actual like full Metal Gear game I played. I had a demo for Metal Gear Solid 1, but I had not actually played 1 until like I played 2, and then I was like, shit, this is amazing. Like, this is fantastic. I need to go back and play 1 so I can actually like get the whole thing here. That
And now
was
you
also,
totally understand the story. It's totally coherent, and you
Yes,
get it all.
absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you
Yes,
have no
absolutely.
questions.
Yeah.
I have
Cool,
no
cool,
questions.
cool.
Kojima tells very coherent, sensible stories. Yes.
Yep, Death Stranding. Definitely coherent.
Yeah,
Makes a
totally.
whole lot of sense the whole way through.
But like that also was insane because like, I mean, he tells, those cutscenes are like movies, so like that was like a unique experience for me because again, I hadn't really fully experienced 1, so playing 2, I was like, this is insane, dude. Like, this is a movie. And then my third one, I was kind of trying to choose between Devil May Cry, the first one, and Onimusha 2. I freaking love Onimusha, and specifically 2, because 2 really like expanded on 1. Like, I love 1 was actually my first PS2 game that I owned. So when I bought the PS2,
Warlords, right, was the first one.
Yes, yeah. Onimusha Warlords, exactly.
First one I ever played was 3 when you had the French guy come into play.
With Jean Reno.
I loved that game, but I guess people don't like it as much.
Oh, Leon the Professional's in that?
Yeah.
He was great.
The opening again about CG, the FMVs. The opening FMV of Onimusha 3 is to this day
It's still one of the greatest ones.
It's
ever.
one of the most.
I remember I would start
I've
the game
ever
over and over just to watch it.
Yeah, dude, Samanosuke running up that like giant creature thing.
Dude,
with,
that
like,
was
the
so
building on its
good.
back.
I forgot about that. That was amazing.
I still go on YouTube every once in a while and just watch it. It's so
I think
good.
those games are way better than people realize, and they need to come back.
That was a great game. Yep.
The only one I didn't play is the 4th one. Like, it's not called the
Dawn of
4th
Dreams. Yeah, I remember I did play it, and it's like it's a good game.
I really only played the 3rd one. The other ones I barely diddled at all.
Well,
I mean, you can play the first one. You can play it on
and I don't think it sold well, so I don't think we're getting remasters of
we're
2
getting
and
more.
3. So
Yeah.
really sucks, but it's really good.
All right. At the end, whatever's not mentioned, we can throw out ones that we at least want to have mentioned. Derek, what would be your top 3?
All right, since I can't list off all 15.
Nope.
Number 3, Twisted Metal Black. Number 2, Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. And number 1, Grand Theft Auto 3.
3.
Why? And I don't think you're wrong, but why'd you pick 3 over the 2 that followed it?
Because 3 changed gaming for me, and that's the one I invested more hours into than the other ones. I'm not saying it's the better game, it's not. But for me, I had never played anything like that. I remember when my cousin introduced me to that game. I went to stay up in Jacksonville for the weekend. It was like a Thanksgiving weekend. And he's like, you should check this game out. And I started playing it, and we played all night. And my brother saw it. My brother wasn't that big of a gamer at the time. And he was like, when we got back to Tampa, he's like, we got to put our money together and go get this game. So we went and got the game. And him and I lived together at this time. And we had a roommate. And me and my roommate, Mike, would just play nonstop. And I'm not exaggerating. Where I worked at Sam's Club at this point, I worked in a parking lot. And I remember one time I walked over to Mike. Him and I worked together. And I went, Mike, dude, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like I'm in a video game because I'm looking at this fire truck and I feel like we have to steal it. And I wasn't even being trying to be cool. Like, I was like, I feel like
I have a problem,
we
man.
should be stealing this.
You are
That's
why
how many
politicians
hours we
say what they
played.
say about
Yeah,
me.
exactly.
That's why I never go like they're all wrong. Are they mostly wrong? Yes. But if you overplay it, I was younger
It's too
mentally
much.
then too.
Yeah.
I was like,
I think it's really just you
feel it.
Floridians. It's just you Floridians.
It's just Florida.
It's
Yeah.
just Florida.
I then later that evening put my penis in an alligator's mouth.
Okay.
All
I knew
right.
it.
And
Wow.
now you have no penis.
Jeff said I knew it. He's like, I've always thought this. I didn't want to say it. All right,
That's
Jeff.
why
I
I'm
knew it.
transgender.
Jeff,
Oh,
what are
Jesus
your
Christ.
3?
This was an era of gaming that I did not really commit and beat games.
Okay.
So I really just listed the 3 that I enjoyed playing so much that I sunk the most hours into. My 3 is, I definitely didn't beat this, so I can't speak to the story at all. But number 3 is Kingdom Hearts 2. I played that game so much. And
Hold on, Jeff. I need you to every detail of the story. I need
Every
you to break it
detail.
down, right?
Talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
stories
that's
that make
another
complete sense from beginning, middle, and
sensical
end.
game.
Totally makes
in the
sense.
franchise.
So this game I remember because all these games actually I started playing at home when I lived with my parents, and my brother still lived with us too at that time. This was a game that he would come into our little gaming room area that we had in our 2-story house, and he would watch me play it and go, "Why are you playing this? This is like meant for kids." And I would just like, dude, you don't understand until you have the controller in your hand, until you're playing the combat. Like, it feels so good to play. You don't understand. I just had such a fun as hell time playing the second one. My number 2 is I probably did technically beat this game, but not everything's 100%. There's no way to complete it, truly. It's Guitar Hero 2. I went with the second one. I really had to think about which one did I sink the most time into on PS2.
Yeah.
And this is the one I came away with. Like, Guitar Hero 1, I think, has the better songs, but 2 just looked a little slightly more refined.
Yeah,
Is
I like
1 the
3
one that
most.
ends with Freebird? Right,
I think
that's
so.
1.
I
Yeah,
think
That's
so.
the one I played the
Yeah.
most, I think.
Yeah.
I like 3 the most.
I do too, but I think I played that more. I had a 360 by that point, and I played it on 360 way more.
Okay.
And it looked way better, way better on 360. But yeah, this was the game. Those first 2 were definitely the games that like kind of opened my world up to the rhythm gaming, and that period of time was like 5-6 years of me nonstop playing Guitar Hero and Rock Band. It was just, it was my life.
It was a problem.
Yeah, it was a problem. And then my number 1 is it's the same as Derek's. It's GTA 3. That was like transformative for every single one of us in the house that gamed. It was like my dad, my brother, and I were just trading the controller around. We could not believe the shit that we were able to do in that game and get away with. Like I still remember the map like the back of my hand. We just spent so many hours on weekends like just dicking around, not doing anything.
Banging a prostitute and then killing her and getting your money back was the greatest thing that ever happened.
Well, it also was the first game where you really tested systems. Like okay, this wanted system, how far can I push this? When I'm
we got the army
building,
after.
like,
We basically we passed the controller around to test who could get the most people after us and
how long you could last.
How long and can
so
we break the game?
My dad was
Can
the
we
one
break
that
this
found
game?
this building near a gas station, which was kind of on the edge of town. You could see the sea. And he found a building. He was able to go up to the top of the building and just rocket launcher everybody. And it was like, and he was able to get a bird's eye view and like take down helicopters and stuff like that. He was able to stay alive the longest. My dad, dang it, when I was a kid, man, he was
pro gamer.
He was our pro gamer in the house.
Yeah, gamer.
It's not the same anymore. But he still games. He plays Fallout 76. He loves it.
Yeah, I still remember when I went over to see my brother and his wife and their new baby, and we were hanging out, and then I was meeting my nephew for the first time, but he still, and this is his first kid, right? So life changing. But then he kind of just whispers to me like, gotta try this game. And I was like, what? I was like holding the base, like, what are you talking about? So he fires it up, and I was like, what is? I don't understand this. Like, it's like Mario. You can move in 3D, but like you're shooting stuff. Like it was all like, what is this?
Like
And
Mario, but you could shoot things.
and you can go wherever you want to. Like you don't. I don't understand what you're saying to me right now. Like it didn't really compute until he handed me the control and I started playing it and I got it and I saw like, what's that little mark? It's like you go there to start a mission, but you don't have to. You can do whatever you want. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want.
I have
so
control.
like
it was for me. It was between 3 and Vice City because Vice City, I think we played an equal amount. We played so much,
but that's all I really played of it.
But
the third
one was the one that was like, you got to check this game out. It was like a big freaking deal.
3 was like, oh, someone introduced me to it. That looks really cool. But I didn't really play it a ton. I played Vice City when that came out. I liked it a lot. I thought it was really great. But the one, and I'll go ahead and jump into my list, that's at number 3 for me is GTA San Andreas. That's the game that I put the most time into. I thought it was, and I know that looking back on now, it's got all kinds of flaws. I totally get it. But I loved all the weird in-depth RPG systems of like you can get fat or you can work out and get in good shape. Like I thought that stuff was amazing. The idea of like going out of the city and now you're riding your dirt bike across the country and now you can go to there's backcountry roads and there's mountains and there's another city over here and like I just thought it was amazing. And the way that you could do things to build up skills like swimming and biking and like actually pedaling to ride a bike, all that kind of
lifting
stuff.
weights, and there's like a mini game for lifting weights. Yeah.
So I thought San Andreas was
it was definitely the most involved GTA game, but I just never, my brother and I were in a weird gaming space where we didn't really want to entertain RPG light elements at all in a GTA game. We were just no. But now in retrospect,
so do I.
I replayed that one like back because I mean I was pretty young then, so I just had the time to do so. I replayed that game like 3 times, like front to back, like
that's awesome.
And that's a long game, like and there's the 3 whole separate areas, like I was obsessed with Andreas.
And that was also the first game that I did like a midnight release, waited in line. Went to get that. So that was a big moment. But man. And then stayed up way too late playing it. Had to work and go to class the next day, and then like kept playing.
This is the way.
So good. That's number 3. Number 2 for me, and I know that Metal Gear Solid 2 is considered by most to be like the top. For me, it was Metal Gear Solid 3. So kind of same as San Andreas. Like some people are like, no, Metal Gear Solid 2.
I think 3 is actually slightly favored over 2.
Okay, is it? Okay.
Yeah. I think it usually is.
For most people feel betrayed by 2.
I've heard, at least from Kyle, who's like my resident Metal Gear expert. He puts 4 like up there above both of them, but like 2 I've heard more positive things about than 3. So I feel like Tim's right.
That's what I've heard, but I don't know. But that's okay. Regardless, for me personally, 3 was amazing. And I loved the outdoor setting. I loved the camouflage system. I thought the boss battles were on a next level. I loved the story. I thought the ending was really emotional. Like it just did everything. And even though I could not always explain to you all the Metal Gear stuff, I understood that particular story, what we were doing, what the goal was. By the end of it, I felt like I understood who the characters were and why we were doing what we were doing. Like even though I couldn't explain all the Metal Gear lore, that's crazy. Not many people can do that. But I do think that game had a great beginning, middle, and end, and it just did a great job. The arc was amazing, and the final encounter was just so memorable. Even walking through the river of all the bodies you killed was very memorable.
2 was loved, but it was also hated on a lot because of the character switch.
It threw me
3
off.
3 was more popular.
Because I loved 1. Unlike Dan, I did play 1 on the PS1 and loved that game. And 2 threw me off, and I didn't like what they were doing at first, but over time, I was like, this game is freaking.
So hold on, they did a character switch in 2.
Yeah, you're not.
That's where a lot of people hate.
So this is making. It's crazy how history repeats itself with Last of Us Part 2. It's so wild.
Yeah,
that is so wild.
Oh, and what's funny? But what's funnier with Metal Gear Solid 2?
I never thought of that. Like as a
you're surprised how many people don't like surprises.
Yeah, what you're playing Solid Snake for like what 2 hours, 3 hours, and then the rest of the game is this other dude.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "What?" Because there was also
literally does cartwheels while holding his penis.
All right. Well, it's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Which, by the way, he's one of my favorite characters in the Metal Gear universe.
Dude,
yeah, he's great.
Then in
he's
4,
alpha as fuck, bro.
Yeah,
In
he's great.
4, he's like,
I still haven't played 4. They need to, what's Sony doing? And
I know.
Konami, whoever.
What do you do? Why are you
Get it
sitting?
off
it's
of the
Konami's fault.
PS3.
It's all Konami's
I would
fault.
actually
Get it
like
off of the
4 to
PS3.
be, I would like 4 to be remade or released again because I beat it.
At
but
least put it
I
on PS
don't
Plus as a
remember
PS3
anything.
classic, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's true.
Whatever.
It's got to be Konami. Yeah.
I've always thought they would.
I will
just
say
assumed
this:
they
I
would do
really
it, but
think
they
if
haven't.
any of you guys played 4 now, you would actually hate it. You'd just be like, dude, what are you doing?
That was actually my first PS3 game. When I bought my PS3, that was my
It's
first
90% movie, 10% game.
All right, so those are my 3 and
That's
2.
fine.
My number 1 for the PS2 era was Shadow of the Colossus. That game
Makes
made
sense.
an
Did not
impact
get
on
into
me
that one.
and still has stuck with me. I loved the remake too, but I mean, I remember when I played it, I was just blown away. Absolutely just stunned.
I don't think
So-
there were any games at that time that were doing fights on that caliber of like,
Mhm.
hey, climb this giant thing
Yeah.
and have you have to.
Well, and I
off it.
was also really taken by the mostly silent story, and it was just very subtle. There weren't like enemies, and I loved games with waves of enemies. I love that. I love leveling up. I love all the systems, but this was a break from all of that,
Mhm.
and it was almost like this peaceful, and then at times terrifying. It went back and forth, peaceful to terrifying. It was so good, man, so good. So I loved that game, still do. Before we move on real quick, any honorable mentions? Like, this is a PS2 game that I loved, regardless of where you would rank it.
Devil May Cry for sure. Like that game was like, and which was originally it spun off from Resident Evil 4, right? Because they were working on Resident Evil 4, and it was a bit more kind of almost like gothic horror-y. Like there was a initial trailer, you can maybe find it on YouTube, where there was almost like these ghost enemies chasing after Leon, which was crazy. But then it spun off into Devil May Cry, which he goes off onto this island, and there's this castle thing, and he's fighting like these demons and so on.
Well, the sword uppercut to 2 guns midair sold me. Like, that was one of the coolest things you did in
the marionette bosses. Like,
I'm gonna throw out there Mercenaries.
Monsters,
You guys ever play Mercenaries? That open world game. That
I
game
played
was
the second one.
The second one I didn't like at all.
Yeah, I
But
didn't either.
the first one was so cool. It was like Grand Theft Auto, but you're literally a mercenary and you're capturing these high level lieutenants and generals. I just thought the first game was awesome. Mercenaries was a blast. Loved that game.
I'm realizing, by the way, that Kingdom Hearts 2, or the reason I played it so much, was because I worked at Blockbuster at the time, and I just kept re-renting it for free. Like, I didn't even have to bring the game in to re-rent it. I just had to copy and paste the barcode and just put it to my name. But anyway, the other one that I played a shit ton at the time that it came out was God of War 2. And I didn't even play the first one. Same thing with Kingdom Hearts. I just played
you're just skipping over like the.
I didn't care. It was just so much fun.
You are the opposite of Dan. Like Dan's like, I can't touch it.
You're filling me with rage. I'm so
filling me with rage.
I told you, in that era, I did not beat games. I played them for hours, and then I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna go do something else.
All right, I'll list off a couple others real quick because I didn't realize we're over.
Oh, Derek had to say.
We got Bully. We got Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2. I loved 2.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I thought Battlefront 2 was great. Hitman Blood Money, Final Fantasy 12, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, and then its 2 sequels I thought were a blast. And all the Splinter Cell games I played on PS2, at least the first 3.
I think I played the second. I might have played the second one on that one too.
Chaos Theory, I still think holds up as an amazing stealth game. And the last one I'll mention, and see if Derek has any other, is Suikoden 3, which is a really great RPG game.
You like those games?
That was my first week.
I like those. I don't know if you knew that.
All right, I'll just I won't talk about it. I'll just list them. Number 4 on my list is Mortal Kombat Deception, God of War 2, Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy 12, Resident Evil 4, SOCOM games. I just put all of them.
SOCOM, yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, Onimusha games, Sega Soccer Slam, legit awesome game. And then my last 2 are Enter the Matrix and Path of Neo.
Oh, Enter the Path of Neo! I beat that game 4 times. I love that game. Why did I not put it in my 3? Oh my god!
You can do it now retroactively. It's in
because I'm the only real Matrix fan here.
How dare you?
Okay, all right.
Well, the only other game that I hadn't heard mentioned that I absolutely loved, and it was because of the crashing mechanics that they introduced finally into the series, is Burnout Takedown.
Yep.
Yeah, I had Burnout too.
Yeah,
so many good ones.
That was the first entry. Yeah.
What a good system. You know what else was cool about it was that all PlayStation 1 games are backwards compatible, and you could bring over your memory cards, and
Yeah.
and the controllers, like everything
Mhm.
from PS1 worked on it, which was
When
amazing.
when Sony still gave a crap about backwards compatibility, am I right?
That was just such a smart move, man. It allowed everyone to move into the PS2 era
We
so
don't know
seamlessly.
how to do it. It's
I'm-
really hard.
I'll be honest, either I didn't know
It's
or
too
I
difficult.
don't remember it being backwards compatible. I never touched a PS1 game.
Yeah,
on the PS2.
yeah, it was.
Oh no,
yeah.
I played a bunch of them that
It
I
was
had
fully,
missed.
fully backwards compatible.
What?
I had missed a
What's
lot of
wrong with
PS1
you?
games and
Metal
went back,
Gear.
It was
I
wrong.
went back and played a bunch that I had
Never
missed.
touched them. Wow.
I want to give a shout out also real quick. So to a couple RPGs, Dragon Quest VIII, and which was my first Dragon Quest I ever played, and then Persona 4, which was just. I mean, I
there's
played
a
three.
lot of
What about Legend of Dragoon?
Shin Megami.
Oh,
that was
and
PS1.
other games that came out on that system, but mainly Shin
Yeah.
Megami games.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shin
Oh, what
Megami.
was that one? We just talked about this recently, Dan. It's that one with the clock mechanic on the. With
Oh,
the
Shadow Hearts.
Shadow Hearts. Those were PS2 games, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it was on there.
I only had played a little bit of that one because that was basically when I went to go trade in my PS2 and like a
Yeah.
bunch of my games towards my
It was-
PS3.
I beat
it's
that
a
first
swimming
game.
in
Oh,
sevens
did you?
game, guys.
Yeah, I beat the first one and played the second one a good chunk of it. I like those games.
I'm gonna do that one on stream at some point because I never actually played.
Very
all the way
dark,
through,
but
so.
very
Yeah.
cool, but dark games.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that was fun. I love the PS2, and I'll look for some other anniversaries from other favorite consoles. It's fun to kind of
Yeah.
look back and reminisce on some of this stuff.
Nostalgia.
Couple of
This entire
headlines.
episode's been nostalgia.
It has been, yeah.
Stuff.
Couple of headlines. Mario Kart 8 Booster Course Wave 4 is set for this coming week, so you can get more. They confirmed like there's 8 new courses. They all look pretty great, actually. So go
I think
check
this is
that
the
out.
last wave.
It is,
And,
should be the last
yeah,
wave.
I bought the pass a while ago, so I'll be playing these tracks for sure.
And then they did confirm, this has been rumored for a while, that there's going to be a Nintendo Switch Mario bundle coming out on March 10th. Makes sense. Movie's going to be out within a few weeks after that.
I was gonna say just in time for no Mario game to come out, but you mentioned the movie, so yeah, that's fair.
I want
So
a Chris Pratt Switch bundle.
for $300, you
Chris
can
Pratt's
get.
face on it.
It'll come with
He's
two.
gonna voice act the Mario Odyssey character.
It's DLC.
They're
It's
gonna
DLC.
add him in there.
He now does menu narration for accessibility on the Switch.
But he's just like
Um,
Burt Macklin. He just acts
oh my
like Burt Macklin. Like
But it's going to include 2 red Joy-Con controllers, and you pick one of these 3 games: Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe.
Everybody, if you're gonna get this and you haven't played Odyssey, get Odyssey.
Yep.
What do you
Get
do?
Odyssey.
Odyssey.
Just get
Well,
Odyssey.
Mario Kart 8 isn't a bad choice either. So,
No,
Yeah,
it's not. But Odyssey is like the best Mario game I've ever played. Period.
It's
Like
amazing.
I don't know, and I know I'm like undereducated on those games, but that game is amazing.
that game is so good.
it's
I
very
agree.
good.
Metroid Fusion has now joined the. Actually, it's going to join
Yes.
this week. The GBA library. I can confirm
Yeah.
this is an amazing game. It's a really
Yes.
cool one. I think it's technically on the timeline the first of Samus's adventures. I could
Oh,
be wrong.
so it's like a prequel.
I think so.
I thought it was after the
Someone
Super
double
Nintendo-
check.
Super Metroid. I thought it
might-
was after because she gets that like the blue stuff on her suit. I
Does
think
get the
it's
blue.
Alien, isn't it?
What's the Metroid timeline, guys? Let's dig into this.
So what's the war? No, because
totally have
the
to
Prime
talk to
series, the Prime series are prequels. The Prime
Oh,
series.
I was thinking of Zero Mission.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Fusion is like way after, and then Dread
Yeah,
is
it's after
that one.
Super. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
This
I-
was released the day before Metroid Prime came out
Oh
on
wow.
GameCube.
On
That's
Game- that was
insane.
Game Boy
That's-
Advance and GameCube.
There's a lot of
So
Metroid
ballsy.
stuff going on there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Metroid going on there.
But that means the entire 2D Metroid series is available on Switch Online. You have Metroid, Metroid 2, Return of Samus on the Game Boy, Super Metroid from the Super Nintendo, this game, and then Metroid Dread as well.
Fusion is, according to Wikipedia, critically acclaimed.
It's phenomenal.
One of the
dude.
highest rated.
It's
Metroid
really good.
games.
It's very good. And the one that you don't have is the 3DS remake of Return of Samus, but you can still play the original version.
Yeah.
the Game Boy version.
I still have the 3DS, so I still have that.
I
Somewhere.
think Fusion's my favorite, to be honest.
Fusion's
So-
good, man. It's just a
I
good
love
balance of that
Fusion.
game.
Yeah.
Elden Ring has a first expansion announced. We don't know anything about it. It's called The Shadow of the Erd Tree. If you played the DLC from other FromSoft games, you know they put a lot of time and effort and energy and care into their content. So
This was
just
just
glad-
a concept art reveal, which I thought was
Just
interesting. I was like,
concept
so
art.
are we not getting it this year? Because it just.
yeah,
the
I've seen a
lack
few
of
people. I've
things
seen,
that they
I've seen a few
showed.
people break down like FromSoft's pattern is
Uh-huh.
usually about a year and a couple months after the main game releases is when they'll
Ah.
put out a big DLC piece. So that would put it at about summertime, maybe. at the latest, but
I'm
who
just
knows?
glad they're making DLC because this game is like kind of small. You know, there's not much going on in it.
There's not much happening. They need to
Yeah, there's
add
not
some
much
more
happening
content.
there, so they
Nothing
need
to
the
do.
DLC.
It's like 2 hours tops.
Yeah, it's real quick.
Yep. Hitman maker IO Interactive has said that it's working on an online fantasy RPG, which is not something I saw coming. Did not have that on my bingo card.
That's on par with Hi-Fi Rush to me. That's
It's like
strange.
you're doing what? But anyway, that's cool.
That's
Do your thing. You do you, boo. You know,
if they
do your
make
thing.
it as detailed as they've made the Hitman
Dude.
new entries,
What if it's literally just
we're
a
good.
bald assassin in
Yes!
fantasy world?
if he's a dragon master or something?
I would love that.
Everybody else has like anime hair, but he's
Yeah.
bald
I would love that so much.
with
It's a
armor.
QR code this time and not a barcode.
They're like, what's your
goddamn it.
name? He's like, my name is Knight 47. Like, oh my god.
Oh my god, that's a weird
Oh
name.
my gosh. Final Fantasy 16 producer would like to release a PC version eventually, everybody. But, and by the way, knowing their history, they're going to. But
Yep.
people need to stop assuming, like, hey, they've
Yeah.
got the 6-month thing with PS5
It's
and then it will hit
not-
PC. He's
Right.
saying,
Yeah.
no. We're just focusing on PS5. Then we'll circle back on those
Yeah.
conversations.
Right.
They're focusing on, much like Hogwarts Legacy, like it's like we're focusing on PS5 and then supporting PS5.
Yes.
And then once we're confident in that, we're going to switch to other platforms.
I would be surprised if this comes out before summer of next year. So let's say that
Here's the only
the
reason I
PS5 version
believe
comes out
that.
this summer as planned, right? Let's just assume there's no delays. I wouldn't expect the PC sooner than a year after that, but I could
That's
be
what I
wrong.
was gonna
I
say.
agree.
PC is coming. Only reason I actually believe this guy, whereas I don't think this is just bull crap where he's like they have a deal with Sony, so it's like only on PS5, so don't wait for the PC. Come buy the PS5 version, is because they have trouble releasing these games. So I really do think he's like, no, you can't work on the PC port. We need you over
Yeah,
here
we need
to make sure the PS5
Well,
game works.
And
I think you're right.
And Tim, you know, obviously because delays can't happen. He basically established because they just did a whole like preview like press tour
I'd be
thing.
surprised if it got delayed. Yeah.
Well, he said like literally unless a freaking meteor comes and hits the earth, like
I'm
we're
so
good. Like
excited
we're
for
good.
this game.
We're good.
Oh, you mean like a
And you know what?
tsunami that has hit Japan and delayed?
Yeah, I know, right?
Well,
Yeah, they
sure,
have nothing
yeah.
going on over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You know what? Seeing the gameplay previews and stuff that released this week, I'm confident they're going to keep the date. Like I really
Yeah,
am.
yeah,
Like it
they-
looks so thoroughly like not finished, but it looks very polished.
I mean, he's insistent. He literally made the joke of like, yeah,
Yeah.
literally, unless something out of our hands completely, like a tsunami or freaking he said meteor, like comes
Not-
and hits the earth. Like
Not a whole lot of games historically hitting in June. So I think that's
June is
great.
a fantastic, yeah, like a
I
summertime
love it.
RPG. Like
The last time
It's
that I had a incredibly, insanely huge RPG that took me all summer was Witcher 3 in 2015. That came out in May. And so
Almost
that was
10 years ago then. That's crazy.
That's crazy, right? I mean, there's
Yeah,
probably been other
wow.
ones that I'm not thinking of, but like not in June
Yeah.
for sure. I don't
Yeah.
think
that's and it's June
This-
22nd, so it's towards
This
the end.
year is
So it's
loaded,
July.
so I like the way I like that it's releasing then. I don't know if
Right,
other
right.
games are going to start coming out then, but I have a feeling we're going to get overloaded in late 2023, so probably October,
very much
November,
so.
December. So this will be great.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we already have games coming out April and May, so
Right.
having
And
it
you got to
late
think
June-
about the stuff that, like you mentioned, fall. All of the fall stuff, not all of it, but a lot of it's going to get announced during the summer.
And
So,
Derek loves everything related to fall. We know that. So
yeah, exactly.
anything with the word
Final
fall title.
Fall
Yeah.
16th.
He
Octopath
loves-
Traveler, Wolong, Fallen Dynasty, whatever.
Yeah.
Have you
Destiny
guys,
2, like-
By the way, let's take the time to announce our next current gen podcast, which is Fall Watch. It's a show about
Watches.
us
new one.
watching
A new one.
watches.
Oh, that's a
fall.
nice one. Look at that.
Yeah.
So it's anything about watches and anything with the title. The word
And
fall in
it's
the title.
audio only, so you will not be able to see
Right,
our
right,
watches.
right,
We're
right.
only
So
gonna
when we talk about
our
watches, we'll have to be
Way to
like,
know
look at
your
that.
audience. Way to know
Look
your
at
audience.
look at how good that
That's
looks.
good.
Look at it. Just look at it.
just look
speaking-
at it.
Speaking of Square Enix, Forspoken developer Luminous Productions has been officially merged into Square Enix proper.
It
Which was
inevitable.
weird because it's like I thought they were just an internal team. Like I don't even understand what this
Same.
means. Like
Yeah, there must have been
I'm-
more outsourced than we realized. Maybe I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm very confused.
But the idea is they made it sound very nice. Like, we can't wait to bring these people internally. They're so good
And
at what they
fire all
do.
of them.
Nah, you were
Um,
disappointed by the
but
performance of the
It,
game, so
it
you're
apparently doesn't. That's
swallowing that
what I
developer.
thought too, Jeff,
Yeah.
was the performance of the game. But it does sound like their planned DLC for the summer is still in the works.
Hey,
Oh,
whatever.
Are we
Their-
talking about
their funeral.
Forspoken?
Forspoken.
Yes.
Yeah, I still like that game. I still think it's.
I know you do.
quality game.
It's fall spoken. We know you like it.
Yeah, I know.
Hold on. Can we just? I just want to ask you guys. Did you guys like actually watch any of the preview stuff for 16 though? I just wanted to.
Yes.
I didn't.
I
Okay.
watched. There was one IGN that did not have an like somebody doing a voiceover. It was just a big fight. It was like a big.
It's
what do you call it? Summons fight. Basically.
well, it's the icon where there's
Yes.
her. Clive is going up against I forget the blonde woman's name, but she's Garuda, so she's the dominant, and then her icon is Garuda, so he's fighting Garuda. But then then at some point like Ifrit pops out.
They showed that because
that
it went viral
Yeah.
for a second on like
Yeah, yeah,
Reddit of like showing the quick time parts of the fight.
Yeah.
But then all the comments had to clarify, no. There's a different combat system for when you're like an icon or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
and
tell
that's
you
the video that I
guys.
watched was the full fight and seeing the combat and
Okay.
like it just looked
Yeah. I watched
amazing.
I watched IGN's and when Tim was talking about Shadow of Colossus, I was like, what game did I recently watch a video and they were talking about Shadow of Colossus and the guy previewing it said
Yes.
that Final Fantasy 16 made him feel like how he felt when he played Shadow of Colossus.
Yes.
Holy crap!
But you're the Colossus in this case. Like that's the
Well,
thing.
no, there's parts before you summon your icon.
Well,
or
sure.
whatever,
Yeah. But I'm
where
saying
you fight them and they're giant and you're tiny.
They basically.
So,
well,
Love
yeah.
hearing that,
So
though.
I'm not even going to say that because it might spoil. But like, there's a connection with Ifrit and all that. So
I see.
yeah. But yeah, it's very
It's pronounced Ifrit.
cool.
All right, let's move on.
I don't say.
Hey, how you
Go.
doing?
Brone, Afrite.
Hey, Patricio, hey, go sell me some money or whatever.
Italian Ifrit. Guido Ifrit.
Speaking of seeing some gameplay videos, Dead Island 2 revealed 14 minutes of gameplay with some
Hey, I actually thought it looked
description
cool.
and-
That Tim and I did too. Yeah, we were both like watching it, going, "There's no way this is gonna be good." And then we watched it. We were like, "Oh crap, this looks so much fun."
It looks so
Does it?
fun.
I didn't watch it.
I have
Does it?
no
I'm definitely
idea if this
buying
game
it
will be
day
good.
one.
Like, this game might end up being awful. Like, boy, did they deceive us with this video. But that gameplay video, this is coming from someone who doesn't
Yes.
like melee first-person point of view
Well,
combat.
neither
Me
do
neither.
But it
Me neither.
looked fun. It
Yes.
looked so fun.
Does it look
Yeah.
janky?
Let me
though?
just say this.
It doesn't, but it's,
Tim,
you know,
I
it's
know you
vertical
mentioned
slice.
like the first one, like to deceive people and stuff like that. But keep in mind, what people liked was they never saw the gameplay. What the deception was the actual like trailer,
Which was still
which
one of the
was
best trailers
not.
ever.
Yeah, it's a cool trailer, but it had nothing to do with the game at all, like gameplay wise, even tone.
They made me expect some Naughty Dog level narrative, sad.
Yeah,
thing,
this
but it didn't.
this is actually showing gameplay. Now, what we probably won't like, but this is not why I would play the game, is Dead Island games have terrible voice acting, have terrible dialogue.
Sure.
They're
We
just
saw that a little bit when he talks to the guy in his underwear, and I was just kind of like, yeah, this is dumb, but whatever. It's silly. It's just silly.
exactly. If you know that it's not gonna be the Last of Us narrative or something,
Yeah,
that it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It's a great game.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun.
It's not meant to
some
be
of the
taken
weapon
seriously.
combos that you can have, and like using the sledgehammer to just demolish things. I mean, it just looks like fun, man. Looks like a lot of fun.
Wow. Sorry, I was looking at Twitter and John Jones. I don't know if you guys know anything about UFC.
Yeah.
He won the title in like a few seconds.
Against
Uh-huh.
who is he fighting tonight?
I just saw that it hadn't even started yet.
Yeah, it was like within seconds. Cyril Gain.
Oh, okay. Yeah, John Jones is a beast. He's a
I know. I'm not saying he's a good person or nothing, but he's very
Nope.
skilled in that.
he's
that
a beast of a fighter. That's all.
Yes,
All right.
very much so.
Star
Anyway, sorry,
Wars.
go ahead.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Speaking of way too many games, they're coming out. It's still coming out like in a month and a half. Or
I
something.
know. What the hell?
That seems
Anyway,
like that came on quick.
the director of that game has said he's got a sight set on a trilogy. He's always kind of envisioned a 3-part story for Cal
Perfect.
Kestis,
Perfect.
and so that's what he'd like to see. And
I would
to me,
like
that
that
makes
too,
sense.
yeah.
And then he says if they get the green light for that, I assume this game is going to be uber successful, just like the
I
first
would
one
think
was.
so.
And then they're going to upgrade to Unreal Engine 5 for that final. For that
Awesome.
I
That's-
mean,
yeah.
this one's gonna be like Dragon Age, so it's gonna be successful.
They did say this one picks up 5 years after the events of
Cool.
2019's game, and so I would imagine there'll be some similar time jump. Maybe it's an old Cal Kestis in the last one. Who knows?
I just want to, on behalf of Derek and I, say you're welcome to all of you for making this game possible to be on the level of Dragon Age.
We don't know that yet. You're really jumping the gun. We don't know. It might be everything that you hate about Dragon Age now. So
I actually think the Dread Wolf is going to show up in this game. They're gonna do like
It's a
a
crossover.
protagonist switch. Like Calcutta is only gonna be in the game for like 30 minutes, and he's gonna be like,
Yep.
"Oh my God, the Dread Wolf's here! I'm out." And then you
yeah, that would be so cool. All right.
How dare you?
Capcom has an event coming up this week called Capcom Spotlight. They're going to highlight Resident Evil 4. They don't list Street Fighter here. They might do a separate one for that, but they have RE4, Exoprimal. I forgot that dumb game.
Oh yeah, they're
forgot that
trying to
existed.
sell that game hard.
Oh my
more
God.
Monster Hunter Rise content, it sounds like. Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection and Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. So
Huh.
they're going to talk
All right,
about
so Resident Evil 4, cool.
Yeah, so
That's-
basically
that's
I
what I
don't need to
it's
see.
like Sony with the
anything
Suicide Squad
on-
thing. Like, yeah,
I
okay,
don't
so
need to
Suicide Squad
see
got it.
anything with Resident Evil. Just
Yeah,
give
Yeah,
me
I
the
think
game.
I
And
think
even-
I'm good. I'm
even
good
that, I
too.
don't need to see anything else about it. Just release the game.
Yeah.
And by the way, what are
exactly.
we, 3.5 weeks away from that game, right?
Yeah. So
3
why
weeks
are we doing a
away.
showcase?
Yeah, gotta
Earlier?
finish Octopath.
I know. Yeah. I feel
Lot of
I feel
pressure.
that. I feel that for myself. It's WWE that I'm kind of
Okay,
Yeah.
a couple quick things. We already talked a lot about Octopath Traveler 1 and 2 technically, because those games are very similar, and I shared some thoughts on 1. That's the main game I've been playing in addition to Hogwarts Legacy. I did want to just reiterate
cool.
what Jeff already told us. The PS5 exclusive mission for Hogwarts Legacy is freaking awesome. And you already told me about this, but it is so cool. And then it unlocks a feature that's not really that big of a feature, but there's an
not
extra
really. It's just somewhere else you can sell your stuff. That's it.
Exactly. But it is kind of cool. It kind of gives you a feeling of like, ooh, I'm more important. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But the mission itself,
Elitist.
I had no idea it was going that way. Derek, you talked about how when you didn't skip a cutscene and some character was talking to you in Octopath, you were like, you're not being honest. There's something weird about you. I got those vibes at the start of this mission. I was like, something
Me
fishy
too.
about this
Yeah.
lady. Seems too, I don't know what this is. This isn't right. And then, of course, you get pulled into this. It was like a 90-minute mission, and it was crazy, man. It was really good.
And
really
that's
good.
the general consensus on I'm subscribed to the subreddit on the it's just Harry Potter game, I think that's the name of it. And every single post, almost every other one is like, so that's the best mission, right? Like everybody's like in agreement. Like
It's so good. It's got this weird
How do
like
They're all ponies. It's all fab. Like
It's
literally just
all
reposting
fab.
under.
it's
different
so
IDs.
creative both visually and gameplay wise, and you've got little elements of like puzzles that you would have almost like in a Zelda game, and then you have like Mad Hatter meets Scarecrow style visuals and like twisting of the level. I mean, it's generally spooky too. I was like, whoa.
That's kind of weird because most of the time when they have like an exclusive like mission, it's usually just a throwaway trash because they don't want to upset
Right.
people.
Right.
So it is a little. I mean, it's good for you guys, but it's a little disappointing. Like I'm playing on PC, so I miss out on it if it's actually a legit cool.
It really is good.
I imagine it's gonna come out later. That's usually
I
what
hope
they
so.
do.
Maybe. But it's fan. I just wanted to highlight that. It is excellent. But yeah, I'm having a blast playing this. I actually took a picture of my daughter today while she's playing because I knew this girl loves Harry Potter so much. And she's playing Hogwarts. She's playing on
Girl,
easy.
same.
She'll get like she'll get a little scared and spooked at certain like some of the spider stuff's a little spooky. Like, you know,
It
she's
is.
all
And the music doesn't help. It's like violins
doesn't
like
help.
clashing with each other. Like
Right.
Oh my
Right.
God, terrifying spiders.
But she just got to the part in Beast class and she's been asking me nonstop, but doesn't really want me to spoil it. She goes, do I get a hippogriff? Do I get a hippogriff? Can I have a hip? Like she just can't wait because she loves the hippogriffs from the
Yeah,
Harry Potter movies so much.
Just keep playing because it's
I know.
It's like
And I
right
kept
after
telling her, I was
that,
like, I'm not going to tell you. But she did the Beast class where you meet the hippogriff for the first time. I mean, it looked like Christmas morning. She was having, it was just the time of her life. She was
and
like,
then if you
it.
keep following that character, I think it is part of the main story that you do eventually fly one, but you got to follow that main character's story basically. Not the main character, the Hufflepuff character, the Poppy or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, there's
eventually
other creature stuff
I guess
that happens.
I guess it was a natty mission where you end up flying on.
It is natty that you
Yeah.
guys fly on 2 of them.
Natty
together.
ice.
And there's actually no point to flying a Thestral or
No,
a
the
hippogriff.
broom is
They're
way
slower,
better,
but
it's cool.
it's about the grandiose like epicness of like.
You can also
flying
kind of
one,
trot
you know?
around on the ground with them, which is fun.
Oh yeah, like a horse.
Yeah, a little bit like a horse. But anyway, I just thought that was really sweet. Like, it's a good reminder again. Like, hey, kids see the magic of games that sometimes we miss. We
Right.
don't always miss it. I think sometimes we catch it, like we are with Octopath and other games, but like
Right.
sometimes we can get into too much of a how is this? Is it good or bad? Let's talk about
Mm.
the pros and cons. And she's
Well,
just totally pulled into the magic of this experience.
I mean, I'm just more self-aware about it because I'm an adult, obviously. But
Exactly.
like, that's my experience with Hogwarts. Is like, I am just giddy like a child playing the
Yes.
game because it's everything I wanted in a Harry Potter game
So
come to
fun.
life.
It's my favorite game so
straight
far
from
this
the
year.
books.
It's so good.
And yeah, I love that game so much.
Totally loving it. We're going to talk about Last of Us to wrap things up, since that's something I think we're all into and enjoying. So I want to make sure it's not something that anyone falls asleep during. I watched the Weird Al Yankovic story with some buddies last night. It's good
That
to
movie
watch.
is so funny,
It's
dude.
good to watch
Oh my
with friends
God.
when you're, sharing some drinks and already kind of like messing around and like ribbing each other. It's a silly, silly, silly movie, but it's
So
well
dumb.
done, and the cameo count is insane in that movie too. So it's good. It's
Where
really good.
did you stream it?
It's on Roku. You can watch it for free.
Okay.
Roku.
Yeah.
Kind
Kind of a weird business strategy. Let's just release it for free. But hey, man, it's a great movie. So
I loved it, man. My main takeaway from that is like they've created a world that certainly doesn't exist, but like oh, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything else about it. It's just wacky
I'm
and
just
weird.
not even.
it's Walk Hard basically, but about a real person, like, which is
Mm.
kind of a weird strategy. But they're not replaying.
The
I don't think
places that movie goes, especially in the third act, I was like,
yeah, by the end too.
All
You're
right.
like, what the hell?
I mean,
Okay.
Weird Al's a weird dude, so you know.
Yeah.
Makes
But
sense.
it's
it's
not
really
like it's not repeating jokes that Walk Hard did. It's like doing a different take on the jokes from Walk Hard, and it's just it really
It also
excels at
has a
mocking
lot
all
of
that.
lyrics from his songs as dialogue that sometimes they call out and sometimes they don't.
Yes.
There's a specific scene with the parents where he's trying to come up with an idea for another song, and they actually like go through back and forth a couple of lines from his song, and he doesn't pick up on it, and they're both like, "Really? You didn't? Okay." Like,
Really?
it's so good, man.
Because it is like it's like a meta movie on that sense.
Yeah. So I thought it was silly, but
Daniel Radcliffe is so good. He's so
you have to be in
game
the right
for
mood.
that.
Like if you're wanting something even remotely serious or just aren't in like a slapstick silly mood, you might actually be annoyed by it because it goes to like some SNL sketch, Monty Python type of humor at times. And if that's not your thing, you got to be in the mood for it. But I do think it's well made. Anything else before we talk about Last of Us? Feel free to highlight some stuff, guys. Mandalorian, maybe.
Yeah, I saw the scene. I don't really have a whole lot to say. I'm sure if Kyle were on, he'd have more. But with Mandalorian, I thought the premiere was good. It was mostly a catch-up episode because it had been, what did Jon Favreau say? Like 2 or 3 years since Book of Boba Fett ended, which is an important show to watch before Mandalorian season 3.
Are people mad about that too, or something?
Not really. No, it's just the fact that a lot of the episode is like finding out where characters that you recognize from the show are. What are they doing? Like, what's Carl Weathers up to? What's Katie Sackhoff doing? Like, it's a lot of catching up, and it is I think it is the first time that we see him actually interact with people from like Mandalore and stuff, like from his planet and that culture. So that's cool too. There's really not a whole lot to spoil though. That's the only thing. It's not. I wouldn't call it eventful. There's just some really cool Star Warsy action going on in it, and
it's fun.
And it's what I found really funny, and I think somebody on Twitter posted about this, was anytime he tried to say the name of the Baby Yoda character to somebody, they were just like, all right, whatever. Like they didn't care. Like they would be like, oh, you're still with that kid, huh? And he's like, his name's Groger, and they're like, all right. Like they don't care. Like it's not.
All right.
They're much like the fan base, because we're still going to call him Baby Yoda. Sorry.
Still sounds like Gogurt to me when he talks fast. But
yeah,
whatever.
Gogurt.
Gogurt.
So yeah, I
remember
wish I had
Gogurt.
more to say about it.
Gogurt.
It's still an enjoyable show, so that's good.
Yeah.
But there's just not a whole lot going on yet. We're going to get there, I'm sure. I saw Creed 3 today. That was really good. I really like the Creed movies. I think these are like some of the best box movies I've ever seen. And I know Rocky set the groundwork for that.
Jonathan Majors probably sucks in this movie, though, right? Like he's
one of the worst actors working today.
Right.
No,
absolutely.
but yes, of course he's amazing in it, and I fully expected that, but I didn't expect it to be thematically an interesting movie. And
cool.
That's my thing with Creed movies, is I go in expecting less and I get more out of them every single time.
Love it.
Because the second movie is more about like kind of mending fences. You know, it's not too late to reconnect with family in a meaningful way. That's what the second movie is about. This one's more about like letting go of your past mistakes and like not letting them haunt you your whole life, and when to and they did touch on a theme of like knowing when to fight and knowing when to just express your feelings like in a mature way. They didn't really dive into that a whole lot, but there was a conversation between him and Tessa Thompson's character where they were talking about like, you don't always have to solve your problems with fighting and stuff. But of course, we've seen that before in movies, but it's just they explore it in an interesting way in the Creed movies. The fights were, Michael B. Jordan directed this movie. He shot the hell out of the fight scenes. They were awesome.
Crazy to direct while fighting. You know
being the
what I mean?
star of the movie, yeah.
So they
so much
weren't
like
corny. They weren't done corny.
I don't think they were, but I mean, everybody has a different temperature with boxing movies. Like sometimes they're like, oh, another boxing. All right, I'll go see it, I guess. Like,
dude, we should do that for current cinema.
Like
I'll join for that. Like, you should do a ranking of all fighting / boxing movies or something like that. Like that.
It would have to be boxing because fighting movies would just all be like John Wick and the Raid, and that's it.
No, I mean like movies that center around the idea of a fighting competition.
Right.
Maybe it's boxing.
Mortal Kombat.
I would have to be Mortal Kombat from the 90s.
There's so many good ones, but I love some of the Rocky movies. I only saw Creed 1. I thought it was really good. I need to watch
Creed.
2.
The first one is great. The second one I really like, and this one I feel like is on par with the second one. My
favorite boxing movie has always been Cinderella Man. I love Cinderella.
I still need to see that movie.
So good.
The second one is the Drago's son fights him, and that story they flesh out Drago and his dad.
I just thought it looked real cheesy. But
they flesh out that story so good. Like I didn't expect that. The trailers do not tell you that they're going to dive into Ivan Drago and his son's story. They do not allude to that, but the movie does flesh out a lot there, and it meant a lot. Like that story just hit harder than Creed's actual story.
There's also Real Steel. People don't appreciate that movie.
Real Steel is underrated.
It's Real Steel's fun movie. Yeah, Hugh Jackman, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hugh Jackman.
It's not like excellent, but it's really fun. It's really good.
Sure.
It's
the thing I like too about Creed 3 is yes, there's a training montage because every Rocky movie had them, so they have to do it in Creed movies. But the training montage this time was him and Jonathan Majors doing the same exact thing in every shot because the selling point is these guys are so identical, like to the point where they fight identical. Yeah. And that was they just tell a lot of visual storytelling, and I like that Michael B. Jordan continued the trend of that in the Creed, the third one. And if they want to keep making them, I'm totally game.
Oh, also sorry, but Warrior with Tom Hardy and Joel.
This one was more like Warrior, yeah. This one
because it has that brother versus brother element going on.
This has it's more like a metaphor, like not legit brother, but like these two grew up together and then had a falling out because one of them went to prison or whatever, and
which one? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, which one? I wonder. The one that wasn't in the movies before?
The one that's just now showing up, maybe? Okay.
Jonathan Majors he's just magnetic. As soon as he's on screen for any movie, it's just like, oh, I got to pay attention to this guy.
Even his tiny role in that Christian Bale Western from
Hostiles.
Hostiles. He has a small role in that, but even then he's magnetic on screen.
Yeah. He's a generational talent, dude. Seriously.
He's good.
And then the other movie that I really, really enjoyed for different reasons, Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre. It's a Guy Ritchie movie starring Jason Statham, Aubrey Plaza, Carrie Elwes. There's some other people in it too. Hold on, I'm trying to remember. Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant is playing a character that is not. Guy Ritchie keeps casting Hugh Grant in movies and making him do the most un-Hugh Grant things on the planet. It's so fun to watch.
On the poster, he looks like his character from The Gentleman, but maybe
The Gentleman. He's more doing a Hugh Grant accent. In this, he's like, yes, hello, how's it going? And he's very different in this movie. And Guy Ritchie let Aubrey Plaza do her thing in this movie, which is great because you don't cast Aubrey Plaza in a movie and go, be normal. You don't do that.
Because she's not normal.
There was a joke, and I think even there was a joke that Derek made at the beginning before we recorded too that reminded me of Aubrey Plaza because she was making a joke about Jason Statham having sex with the main bad guy in the movie, and she kept dragging on the joke. She was like, "You're going to be inside of him." Sexually, like she kept going, and even to the point where the movie cut right before she finished the word sexually, like they just cut her joke.
That's my favorite joke is like, you, like make it obvious and everybody's annoyed by it, but then you're like, but obvious. Did you get it? Did you
That's
get
Family Guy style humor, man. That's what Family Guy is always done.
The jokes are a mile. I mean, this is like old Guy Ritchie crime movie hilarious. Like just rapid fire, just British crap that they're throwing at each other is so fun.
What was this movie called? Where did you see it?
Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre, Ruse, which is like Ruse of War or whatever. That I saw it in theater. It will. I'm sure it's going to come out to like, I think it's a Universal movie, so Peacock or something. No, it's MGM. Whatever. I don't care. But
it'll stream somewhere.
It'll stream somewhere, and it's highly.
I don't know. Maybe I'll go see it in the theaters.
I honestly think it'd be worth it. It's such a fun time. It's a great throwback action, like spy movie. It reminds me more of Mission Impossible than like The Gentleman, if anything else, because it's more about assembling a crew that's going to try to obtain a thing that could be harmful to all of humanity, and they're trying to figure out what is the thing that we're trying to get and who's trying to buy it. So it's very much a Mission Impossible plot, and there's no character growth. There's no themes to worry about. It's just fun. It
sounds pretty fun.
It's a good time.
Good time. Yeah, I want to see this. It sounds good.
Yeah, that's all.
We'll wrap things up talking real quick about episode 7 of The Last of Us. Now, Dan, are you caught up on this yet? Or are you still kind of lingering behind it?
But I'm lingering.
Okay,
but I'm good. I've seen the images. I know what the premise of the episode is.
So episode 7 is essentially telling the story of the DLC that we got for The Last of Us, Left Behind. And so it digs into some of Ellie's background and really her first real human connection that she had with someone that she truly loved. And she talks about this in her fight with Joel that we talked about last week, where she's like, everyone that I've loved has either died or left me. And this is pretty much the prime example number 1 of who was most important to her. And so I thought they did a really good job at retelling the story that was told in the DLC. It was written by Neil Druckmann, I think this episode was. So I don't know. I don't have a ton to say about it outside of they did a really good job of adapting the source material, and I liked the casting of it. I thought it was shot wonderfully and acted great.
I didn't like the DLC. Like, I didn't find it to be that fun to play. And
it was not that fun to play.
Story.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't.
I'm actually going to compliment this and say this is actually perfect for it to be a show.
Well, it had Mortal Kombat being played, Derek. You had to love it.
Of course. I actually do absolutely love the fact that she's like a diehard like Mortal Kombat 2 fan, which makes me wonder if Neil Druckmann's like a big time Mortal Kombat fan as well, since he keeps throwing it in there. But yeah, I thought overall when Jeff had mentioned last week what the episode was going to be about, I was like, didn't care about that DLC. I already know the backstory. I understand how it plays a part in the show as far as developing the character and her loss that she's already gone through. But I was like, that doesn't sound interesting to me. I got to say, I enjoyed it. Is it the best episode? No, it's like episode 3 for me. It's necessary. Exactly. It's necessary, but it's not a Derek episode. I expect episode 8 and 9 will be Derek episodes. So I still thought it was perfect. Yeah,
5 is still my favorite episode. Episode 5 was so freaking good.
And whatever one,
it might be mine too. Yeah.
Whatever one had her reading the jokes and them laughing at the end about diarrhea was my favorite episode.
That was the end of 4 when they first get to the.
Because that's where I left
4
off.
and 5 were my favorite.
Yeah, 5 has the whole sniper.
4 and 5 are like their own separate movie. Like
they are. Yeah.
They're
kind of like a combined
the Henry
episode.
And Sam, exactly. They go hand in hand with each other. You can't have one without the other. But yeah, 5 is like probably my favorite, and then I do love 3, and that's just because I was going through like a personal thing that kind of helped me identify with that story a little more.
Yeah.
I'm gay, by the way. No, that's not what it was. But 7 is I thought it was really well done. I felt the same. Hold on a minute, dude. Hold on. I felt the same exact way as Tim, where I was like, the credits rolled, and I was like, yeah, that was good. And I didn't really have many other thoughts other than that. Like they fleshed out the story in a way that makes sense for television. Like
when they first talked about the show and it's come together, I thought they might do the Left Behind DLC before we meet Ellie. Like I thought they would have told the story before we even meet her. So to really set up her character.
Dude, I thought we were going to see way earlier flashbacks. I thought we were going to see Ellie's mom in this, played by Ashley Johnson.
So did I, but
and we didn't get any of that. Yeah. So
but the preview for next episode, we did see some very recognizable characters and then one specific recognizable actor connected to the game. So
Yep.
lots to look forward to for episode 8. This show continues to deliver. No reason to doubt the last 2 episodes.
I just like that a
They'll just
bunch
shit the
of
bed completely.
non-gamers are getting into this episode. To
Yeah.
where I'm like, well, you should play the game. And they're like, I think I will. I'll have my boyfriend.
I
do it and
actually
watch.
got somebody, a friend of mine who always had a PS4. He just never plays it. He reached out to actually he reached out on Facebook first, and then he messaged me directly because he knows that I game a lot, compared to him at least. And he was like, should I play the games or what? Like, I mean, are they good? What do I do? And I'm like, they're going to be different experiences for you. Like, the TV show is going to be meant for TV. The game's going to be meant for games. So he played the first one and he liked it a lot. Obviously, he's like, it succeeds at making you feel bad, but in a good way. Like, you feel good about feeling bad. He had more criticism with the second one. He did not like that it. This is something that we heard a lot when the game came out. I don't like that it really didn't give me a choice at the end. And I was like, the first game didn't give you a choice either, buddy. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's not that game. Like, it's
telling you the story of a character and their choices.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
And you have to accept it.
And the way he phrased it was, whereas the first one I felt good about the way I felt bad. This time I felt bad about the way I felt bad. And I was like, I see what you're saying there, but just I wasn't in the mood to get, because I've had all the arguments already with people. So I was like, I'm not in the mood to debate this with you. I just like the game more than you. I'm sorry. But the fact that he was able to, like, in 2 weeks' time, he just would not put the games down. Because
and that second one's a lengthy experience. I mean,
it is. It's a longer game, and
I beat it back to back, and it took me like 60 hours on both my playthroughs.
Yeah.
Wow.
I put a lot of time into that game.
I still remember when the final parts of episode 2, without spoiling anything. I don't want to spoil it for folks, but like when there's moments with Ellie where I did not expect the game to continue. I thought the game was starting to wrap up, and then there's a bit of a time jump, and then she goes to a totally new area, and I was like, this game is still going, and it does. It keeps going for a little while. So, anyway, really. Oh, so good. I'm loving what they're doing with the show.
I'm so thrilled at people that are like giving this a shot for the first time.
They're crushing it.
It's so cool that the show is that good that it makes people want to do that.
Yeah. And again, it's like, it's different enough that like you could, like, if for some reason these people who never played the game, like whatever the circumstances, they can then, they watch the show and they're like, oh, I love this. Like, maybe I will just go play the video game. It's like, it's not going to be exactly the same experience. Like, I think that's really cool. So
Agreed.
Very cool.
And if you really get into the show and just, if you have those feelings when you watch a show and you just like, you're so hungry for more and the season ends and you just want more, go play these games, man. There's a ton there. There's absolutely a ton there. More characters, more experiences, all that good stuff. So there you go. Last of Us episode 7. Hey, this was fun. We talked about Octopath way more than I thought we would, but I'm glad we did. It's a special game. And it's a special game during a very already special year. Listen, I know people are like, oh, so 2022 was bad? No, I didn't say that. 2022 was a good year.
I'll say it now. It's trash.
2023, we just finished the second month, and I'm already going, I don't know how we're going to rank the best games this year.
Right.
There's too many already. Like, I already have it like 10, I think.
Octopath is a game that we shouldn't be talking about, and yet here we are. Like, my point is like, we're overloaded with games, and this is one of them that I was completely fine not talking about, buying, anything.
I expected to be like, oh, it's too bad. Too bad none of us will play it because there's too much else going on, and it has taken over, which is cool.
Yeah, it has completely.
I just think it's funny.
I don't even want to play anything else at this point.
Well, yeah, I'm playing this, but I won't talk about Wolong, which is the game I was most hyped for, because I won't play it because of this game that I wasn't going to play. So it totally makes sense.
Exactly. Derek and I had the same exact experience with this. Like, I mean, I was not going to get it. I was content not getting it. I did not get the first game. But
Stupid demo.
The only difference is I played the demo, and
demo.
I was totally compelled by Hikari's story. That I was like, I have to.
One of us.
We've converted Jeff.
All right, guys, make sure you go check out the Dapper Chocobo on Twitch. Make sure you check out Current Cinema podcast on our channel and all that good stuff. Check out the upcoming Watchfall podcast. That'll never happen. Thanks for listening and watching. See ya.